What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto's father returned after the Limited Tsukuyomi? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. I did nothing wrong. The blonde-haired boy Uzumaki Naruto looked at his friends from the same village as they walked past him with a bitter face, and involuntarily let out a sigh. Those Akatsuki members we meet not long time ago were all fakers. I only reported this to Granny Tsunade because that's the truth. It's not my fault that everyone's Jonin recommendations were rejected. Why do they all look at me like I ruined their career? But when you think about it, Naruto actually could understand the others' reactions. They thought they could use this chance to climb up in the world of shinobi, but in the end, everything was in vain because of him, even if it was not anyone's fault. So of course they are not happy with Naruto. Just returned from Madara's Limited Tsukuyomi a week ago, Naruto reported everything to Granny Tsunade with all kinds of emotions washing over him. Of course, this included his supposedly dead parents, not so much this time, in the other world. Although they are not his real parents, Naruto is still very grateful to them for letting him feel the warmth of home for the first time. The joy of having parents still alive that will always worrying about him is such a beautiful memory that he will never forget. That's why he is now trying to hide that jealousy and choose to face everything in his world with a positive attitude. After all, he is the son of two heroes. Even in the bottom of my heart, I am still longing for them in that opposite world. Longing for someone to greet me with, "Welcome home," when I came back. It's so simple yet so impossible. Slowly walking on the streets of Konoha under the afterglow of sunset, Naruto's aimless thoughts drifted to a strange piece of information he heard when he met Tsunade this morning. The country of rain. Naruto really doesn't have any good memories about this place. His mentor, Jiraiya, was killed when he infiltrated that village to obtain information about Akatsuki, and then Nagato as pain attacked Konoha but soon died afterwards. So now Naruto didn't know a thing about what happened to the hidden rain afterwards. It is such a small country that has been gradually slipping away from the minds of people, but then suddenly decide to pop up again. And from the confused expression of Granny Tsunade, there is still a hint of something else. Of course, Naruto didn't know exactly what happened there, although he was a little curious, but the most important thing right now was the preparations for the decisive battle with Madara. So the strange events that happened in the Land of Rain were temporarily left behind his mind. Walking back to his apartment, Naruto once again found something strange. Usually he would saw that the old owner of convenience store near his apartment would sit at the door and greet the villagers coming and going at this certain time. However, not today for some reason. Some random old ladies nearby also gathered together and whispered to each other, though Naruto can't hear exactly what they were talking about. Naruto looked around and found nothing else uncommon. He stared carefully at the street again, and then heard the sharp ringtone coming from the convenience store phone. The granddaughter of the owner also heard the bell sound and jumped up from the seat, then rushed towards the room. Blinking his eyes in utter confusion, the boy gave up the chance to explore the truth, whatever was happening behind his back, and walked towards his upstairs room. Standing at the door, Uzumaki Naruto closed his eyes and opened the door in a nonchalant voice towards his always empty house. "I'm back." Of course, he didn't expect anyone to return the greeting. Naruto slowly opened his eyes again. Then, he met a pair of eyes with a similar color as him. Welcome home?" The young man who made this answer was holding a dustpan in his left hand and a broom in his right, sweeping the garbage scattered on the floor into the dustpan. But he froze in mid-action after Naruto suddenly opened the door to say hello to him. Ba reflexively slammed the door shut, and the teen returned to the outside world. Kept this stunned expression, before tremblingly tightening the grip on the doorknob again, Naruto slowly turning it around. While carrying out such a series of actions, he kept his eyes wide open, as if he couldn't even breathe normally. Then the teen finally opened his apartment door again. Not a hallucination. The man who suddenly appeared in Naruto's house just now, his appearance was somewhat similar to his own, and he also looks quite familiar. No, the truth is, this the man he had met in the spiritual world not so long time ago. The truth is, this is his. Seeing Naruto's dumb-folded reaction might last longer than he thought, the blonde man put down his hand and straight up his back, then a bright smile appeared on his cheek. Sorry to pop up at your house without any early notice, but I also kind of want to meet you in person again. Your name is Naruto in this world, am I correct? Dad, letting out a scream comparable to seeing a ghost, Naruto pointed at the man in front of him with his trembling right hand. Realizing bigger commotion was about to be triggered, the blonde man, Namikaze Minato, quickly dragged Uzumaki Naruto, who was standing stiffly outside the door, into the room, and closed the door with a thud. Well, have you calmed down yet? Seeing his apartment was cleaned spotlessly, Naruto hanged his mouth open. Then he heard his father's question, so he nodded. Sorry, I had to break your window when I came in, so I thought about cleaning it up. At last, I end up cleaned up the whole room. Namikaze Minato looked into the direction of the bedroom in embarrassment. Naruto followed his gaze, only to find out there is a hole on the edge of his window that was just big enough for a kunai to passing through. But, why? Dad, how did you? Confusion rushes to his mind, along with all kinds of hypotheses swarmed out. Naruto, who was in deep thought, carefully opened his eyes to examine the man in front of him. No matter how many times he tried to see through it, Minato is real. Not a hallucination. So is it an enemy using transformation jutsu? Just like the fake Akatsuki members I met before. When he thought about that, sudden rage burst up to the top of his head. Naruto, who was still sitting quietly, jumped up like a firecracker, and proceeded to punch this fake, Namikaze Minato, in front of him. Quickly respond to Naruto's unexpected reaction, Zetsu dodged a few punches and raised his voice back at the boy, who was still very angry. Hold on, didn't you say you've calmed down? Naruto, shut up, you fake, how dare you pretending to be my dad? This is unforgivable, you are not getting away from this. Naruto's punches were very intense in such a small space. However, despite being attacked, the Zetsu in front of him still refused to fight back. All he does was just kept backing away to avoid the attack. Not only that, while doing everything he could to dodge, he also kept trying to comfort Naruto with words. But the harder he tried, more anger Naruto had felt. That voice, that face, and that sad yet tender expression only triggered the teen even more. He must force that bastard back to his true form, he must beat that bastard senselessly. Out of everybody in the world, he dared to pretend to be his dad. The man Naruto looked up to all the is absolutely unforgivable. Please stop doing this, let me explain to you, Naruto. Even now, Zetsu is still trying to make Naruto waver. He's still trying to deceive Naruto's mind, it has to be, there's no other way. Shut up, don't you dare call my name like you are close to me. The sun had already set, shadow fall upon the village and this apartment. Uzumaki Naruto raised his hand, and an energy ball emitted blue light gradually appeared in the palm of his hand. Naruto, watching the boy acted so hysterically, Namikaze Minato suddenly stopped dodging. Instead of doing anything, he only looked at the boy with a sad expression on his face. Surprised at this sudden change of action, Naruto's mind goes even more chaotic. He couldn't understand why Zetsu decided to forfeit the fight. He didn't want to understand what was on Zetsu's mind. He's just too angry to stop the attack now. At this crucial moment, the door of the apartment was shoved open abruptly. Then a loud yet strangely sounded voice echoed around the small space. Yo, am I Naruto and Naruto? Are you guys having fun? Huh? Noticing the situation inside the house was completely different from what he had imagined, the tan-skinned man stared blankly at the two people who were confronting each other. Come on, why don't you guys just sit down and talk? Ahaha. Sorry, Killer B-kun. We are just having an small argument. On the other hand, the counterfeit answered the question in embarrassment like nothing serious happened. As he returned his gentle gaze to the face of the teenager who was still froze in mid-action, Minato pleaded again. Would you give me another chance, Naruto? Please. Now with an utterly shocking expression, Naruto's head turning back and forth at the new intruder and the imposter, maybe, of his father. The Rasengan in his palm also disappeared. It seemed like Naruto finally woke up from the immense rage almost blind his judgment as he stood there in a daze. A few minutes later, okay, please allow me to explain this situation first. After a small cough, the man smiled softly at Naruto, who was staring at him intently. The latter quickly lowered his head after sensing the kindness from Minato. As the awkwardness lingered, the teen perked it up again, this time turning into Killer Bee's direction. The truth is, a few days ago, I met Killer Bee-kun in the Land of Rain. After a little bit confirmation, I asked him to take me back to Konoha. Killer Bee quickly raised his hands in a rap pose after feeling the sight from Naruto asking for proof. He then replied without hesitation, "Oh. Yeah, that's right. At first, it almost scared me a little bit. Yo no, I didn't expect to see Minato again. My old acquaintance. Wait a second, you two know each other. But how?" Although Naruto's first reaction was to complain about why Killer Bee never questioned his father's sudden resurrection, the teen still tried his best to suppress the urge to face Minato himself. He's just not so sure how to act around the man. "Yes, I guess you probably won't know about this. But this time it was Minato who answered, and he looked at the sun from another dimension sitting across from him with a smile on his face. In the Third Shinobi War, I fought against him and the current Fourth Raikage. Seriously, this is what you mean by old acquaintances, the kind who once tried to kill each other?" Just as Naruto was drowned by confusion, a look of nostalgia appeared on Killer Bee's face. He turned his face around and asked Minato in an incredulous tone. "Ya know what? When I saw Minato again in a long time, I thought it was one of the evil schemes of that bastard Madara. But after a good fight, I realized that's not the case. He is the real deal, a very real Minato. But aren't you dead? Yo, Naruto. Now, you are asking this question now. Haha. To be honest, it's complicated. Speaking of being alive again, Minato once again set his eyes on Naruto, who was still stubbornly refused to look into his direction. His tone became even more soft. "If I'm not mistaken, it's Naruto, right? Sorry for not asking your name when we met last time." Naruto's heart almost dropped after hearing this. The expression of realization appeared on his face. For the first time the boy stopped to look away but directly stared back at the man in question. "Could it be that you are?" "Yes." Quietly nodded, Namikaze Minato seemed to be relieved that Naruto was finally willing to show his face to him. This change of flow had him burst into an incomparably bright smile. "I really owe you a lot back then. It was all thanks to you that Menma was saved in the end. I know even technically I'm not your father, but I can definitely tell you are still my son in a way." After hearing this, both of Naruto's eyes and mouth opened up widely, but he couldn't even utter a single word for a long time. "Okay, Killer Bee-kun, thank you for your help. About my situation, I will explain to you tomorrow after I meet Tsunade-sama." Waved goodbye to the Fourth Raikage's partner and his former enemy, Namikaze Minato closed the door and turned around to look at Naruto, who had been silent after everything resolved. Opposite from few moments ago, he seemed to be afraid that Minato would suddenly turn into smoke and disappear at once. So all the teen could do was kept staring to make sure that never happened. "So, Naruto, are you hungry? I've been thinking about cooking something for you. But this is your house after all, so I thought it would be better to ask your permission first." Huh? It's almost like he didn't expect to be asked a question like this at all. A trace of panic appeared on Naruto's face. In order to appease the son from a different dimension who seemed to have a slow reaction time after all those scuffle, Minato rolled up his sleeves and proudly declared his dinner plan. "Don't worry, the truth is I'm actually a very good cook. Although I'm used to eating Kushina's food, it doesn't mean my skill has regressed. How about this? Do you want to try some of my cookings while I'm here?" "Really? I mean, can I?" At first, Naruto bit down his lower lip, but after a long silence, he whispered back in an almost humbled tone. Minato just smiled and stroked the boy's blonde hair that was the same as his own, "But of course. It's just a meal, a father cooking for his son, what's wrong with that?" With such a simple reply, a simple act of kindness, all Minato could see was the boy in front of him clenched his fists, standing straightly with his almost watery eyes stared at the floor to hide his true feelings. At this moment, he can somehow understands the meaning of pain and joy to this child. Sitting on the floor waiting for his first special meal, listening to the crisp sound of pots and pans colliding with each other in the kitchen, feeling that the scene happened not too far away from him is not merely his imagination, Naruto can't help but want to poke his head around once a while. He wants to confirm that Father is really there, and every time he does this, he is repeatedly told by reality that this dreamlike situation is indeed real. Thinking of this, the fists rest on the legs were involuntarily clenched again, so tight that the tingling pain from the tip of the nails piercing into the flesh hit his mind and soul again and again. Naruto couldn't help but kept pressing the nasal bridge to ease the soreness, for the fear of being seen by his father from another world. What if he thought I'm a crybaby? Waiting and waiting, after a good 30 minutes. A pleasant smell sneaked into his nostrils as he raised his head reflexively to look for the food. His father Minato, who was wearing an apron, had already walked over with 2 plates of steaming dishes. Naruto suddenly remembered he should set the plates first as he rushed into the kitchen and opened the bowl cabinet. At first, he only took out 1 set of bowl and chopsticks but quickly realized the pleasant change happened today. By stretching his arm again, Naruto brought out another bowl along with the first set. Now had 2 bowls of rice in hand, he turned around and ran back to the dining room in a hurry. "Oh, thank you." Seeing the blonde boy quickly put down the bowl and chopsticks in front him and proceed sit on the opposite side, Minato smiled again and hold on the edge of the table with left hand and stroked the boy's hair with the right one again. "Sorry, you don't have enough ingredients to make more dishes. I wanted to go outside and do some grocery shopping for you, but before I arrive, the owner of the small convenience shop close to your apartment passed out immediately after seeing my face. So I just thought it would be better to hide my existence as much as possible." As the truth of the commotion outside strikes Naruto's brain, he really didn't know how to describe his feelings right now. It's nothing too complicated, just for the meal that is simple yet enough to tug his heartstrings. For the greeting of, "Welcome back," that he have dreamt of for a long time. And for the person who is still willing to call him, "my child," even though he is from another world. If this is a dream, please let me stay longer. Okay, let's eat dinner before it gets cold. Let go of his hand and encourage the boy in front of him. Minato stretched his arms and used chopsticks to add more food into Naruto's bowl. Under his scorching gaze, at first Naruto chewed slowly and gently like a chicken pecking grains of rice, and then gobbled up with tears streaming down his cheeks without a care in the world. Watching this play out, Minato, while thinking of what he said to Naruto before and the emotions teenager expressed when he left his world last time, combing the reality that his own face engraved on the Hokage rock in this dimension, the man's expression changed. When they finished the last plate of dishes, Naruto, who was finally managed to keep his emotions in check, watched as his father enter the kitchen again with the leftovers. He stood up as well, desperately to show his attitude. "I will do the dishes, Dad." He called out tentatively, and by seeing that Minato showed no signs of displeasure, the boy summoned all his courage together and snatched the dishes from his father's hand. As he turned on the kitchen faucet, Minato still didn't leave. Instead, he rolled up sleeves and smiled at the confused Naruto. "In that case, I'll help you this time." It was just such a trivial matter, nothing special. But Naruto instantly felt his heart was filled with warmth again. After dinner, the father and son, despite were originated from different worlds, sat back at the table again. Then Minato took the lead into revealing the reason he came to this dimension in the first place. What do you mean by the 9 tails over there lost half of its chakra?" Naruto shockingly asked. In response, Minato nodded his head. "I don't know the details either. But right after you left, we found out that Menmas didn't woke up as he supposed to be." The man's expression was filled with worry, which made Naruto a little jealous. "Later, I asked the toad sages from Mount Myoboku, only to find out that the 9 tails' Hawaiian part of the chakra disappeared for no reason. This rend Menma's consciousness, and according to Tsunade-sama from my world, it's like he have entered a state of suspended animation, or I could say it's more close to someone forcibly extracting half of tail beast out of a Jinchuriki. So the reason Dad came over here is..." Minato nodded again. "Yes, the great toad sage said that the missing part of the 9 tails chakra was not in my world anymore. In other words, without anyone noticed, the yin half that originally belonged to my dimension was brought here by someone. Let's be honest, you probably would understand how dangerous the situation is, right, Naruto? After all, we don't know what's that certain someone planning to do with it." Hearing his father's words, Naruto swallowed hard. In fact, it's very simple to pinpoint the whodunit. There was only one culprit from the beginning. Naruto understood that the part in his body was the yang half of 9 tails chakra. As for the yin half, it was sealed by this world's Minato who died in battle, so it's nearly impossible to get it back now. That's why this culprit gone to such lengths to steal the opposite half from the Limited Tsukuyomi. But after he think about the information he knows by now once more, a strange feeling surfaced. Stared back at his father's face with concern, Naruto carefully asked. I already knew Madara never exist over there, then why did I mean Menma became Kyuubi's Jinchuriki? Madara doesn't exist, what? Minato tilted his head, repeating Naruto's words with confusion. Suddenly remembering that the father in Limited Tsukuyomi world wouldn't know anything about the Nine Tails attack that happened in Konoha that caused pain and loss for lots of people, Naruto had to briefly explain it himself. A masked man called Madara appeared in Konoha and released 9 tails at the year I was born. Because of that, my dad sealed the yon half of 9 tails chakra in my body. Carefully peeking at the man who was in a frozen state after hearing this, the boy quickly found an excuse for him. It's not Dad's fault, after all, the situation seemed pretty urgent at the time, so. However, he was soon interrupted by the father from Otherworld, as the blond man murmured with a sad expression on his face. I see. It seems that it is necessary to explain everything to you from the beginning. However, in conclusion, it is also my intention that my child will become the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Though Kushina opposed my decision at the time, but I ended up just ignoring her cry of objections. Feeling Naruto's wide-open eyes stared at him, Namikaze Minato slowly confessed. I'm also the one who sealed 9 tails inside Menma. I guess it has nothing to do with different dimensions. The fact that I'm always the one pushed my own child into the eye of storm was the only undeniable truth. The first thing I want to tell you is. Minato looked at the boy who shared the same face as his son with a heavy sense of guilt. Approximately few months after the Third Shinobi War ended, Hiruzen-sama asked me to took up the mantle from him and became the 4th Hokage. Quote, Wah, Naruto blinked, feeling his body stiffen again. Speaking of the Limited Tsukuyomi world, he only thought it was a completely opposite world from his own. His father was not the 4th Hokage from the beginning and thus survived. On the contrary, Sakura's parents became the heroes of Konoha. He thought this is the rule of that place. But after hearing the confession of the dad originated from this supposedly opposite dimension, Naruto realizes that truth may not be as simple as he imagined. On the other hand, Minato continues. Things have been going smoothly, as long as no one has any objections, I would become the 4th Hokage. However, at long last, it was my own decision to reject the idea. Gazing at the bright stars outside the window, a wry smile bloomed on his face. Kushina was already pregnant at the time, that's when my hesitation arises. If I decide to sat on that seat, I would no longer just be the head of the family or Kushina's husband, I will be responsible for the safety and future of this village. Can I really shoulder such heavy responsibility? As long as those doubts still linger in my heart. No, since the moment I had this thought, I already knew the answer. That I am no longer worthy to succeed Hiruzen-sama as the next Hokage. Raising his eyes to look at Naruto, who had been silent since the confession started, Minato quickly averted his gaze away, this time his tone was full of regret. So, I ran away and recommended Kazashi, Sakura's father, to Hiruzen-sama. At last he passed the daimyo's judgment and became the 4th Hokage. But the truth is, I really should have accepted it back there. At least in this way Sakura will not suffer the pain of growing up without a parent. It was my fault to throw away the responsibility originally belongs to me to others, and it's also my decision caused that innocent child lost her most precious thing. Slowly, Namikaze Minato from the Limited Tsukuyomi continued to tell a story similar to this world but also somehow distorted from the reality Naruto familiar with. Wah, wah, as the newborn baby let out an ear-piercing cry. One expectant mother in the delivery room of Konoha Hospital finally calmed down after several hours of exhaustion and scream. With the help of the nearby nurse, she took over the baby gently. Like this simple movement drained her last drop of energy, the woman can only let the small newborn rest in her embrace. On the other side of the door, the young father, who had been walking back and forth like a zombie, was about to charge into the delivery room with an excited expression on his face. But he was quickly stopped by another man standing next to him. Stop, Minato. I know you are anxious to see your son, but at least wait until you have the nurse's permission. It's not like your wife or child would run away now. You're right, I'm sorry. I guess I can wait a little longer. Ha ha ha. The bigger man laughed heartily and then patted the soon-to-be father on the back. We are friends, remember? No need to apologize to me. By the way, when you think about it, Kushina gave birth to a boy, and I got a cute baby girl. Maybe we can arrange something, they may even become a cute little couple in the future. Quote, though it's a bit early, but it does sound like a good idea. Cupped his chin in right hand and considering the possibility of this future plan with a straight face. Namikaze Minato replied solemnly, if Menma likes her, and Sakura-chan also doesn't oppose the idea, then I don't mind at all. However, I believe Kushina would want to be the one planning the wedding party. Wow, chill, I think you are looking way too hard into this. The man who was only half joking at first, Haruno Kazashi, who is also the fourth Hokage of Hidden Leaf Village, smiled at his former Jonin colleague's overreaction. However, since the two of them have been friends for a long time, Kazashi also accepted this as the Namikaze Minato he knows and couldn't help but tease him. Oh, so the newborn's name has been decided already? Namikaze Menma? It's a good name. Yeah. Embarrassedly rubbing the back of his head, Minato laughed. Both Naruto and Menma are my favorites, so I just couldn't settle on one. At last Kushina got fed up with me and made the final decision on Menma. Saying this, the man bloomed another bright smile. His face was filled with happiness and joy that could not be concealed. Finally, the door of the delivery room opened. As soon as the stretcher came out, the young man bearing the title of Yellow Flash in Third Shinobi War rushed towards the red-haired woman in the blink of eye. Staring at her frail yet still beautiful face, Minato worriedly asked, Kushina, are you okay? Minato. The woman fixed her gentle gaze on the sleeping baby in her arms, and showed to her husband as if asking for credit, look, this is our little angel. Yes, I see. He's so small, so red, and wrinkled so much, but also our most precious treasure and greatest joy at the same time. I know it's been really hard for you, Kushina, but good job. You did it. After chasing the both of them back to hospital room, Minato took his son from Kushina and embraced him the first time. Ha ha ha, this is my son. I have a son now. Watching over his old friend, Haruno Kazashi, who recalled he had the same reaction when his wife gave birth to their daughter Sakura, nodded with a satisfied look. However, such wonderful family time didn't last too long. In fact, it was interrupted by a sudden earthquake. With the flickering lights of the hospital, Namikaze Minato, who almost lost his balance, quickly stabilized his body. Hearing the surprised cry came from his wife Kushina, the blond man tried his best to protect the baby in arms. Minato, what happened? When the whole building shook, cement started to fall off as well. Minato, who was just full of joy as a father, immediately changed his expression to utter seriousness. After exchanging his gaze with Kazashi, he quickly retreated to the side of Kushina and bent down to gently put the newborn baby back into woman's arms. You don't have to worry about anything, just stay by Menma now. Hey, Minato, you better move Kushina to a safe place first, then come back ASAP. On the other hand, already had confirmed what happened outside, Kazashi came back with all colors drained from his face. It's 9 tails. The 9 tails had broke the seal and appeared in the village. What? But how? I thought. Stop asking more questions. Minato shook his head silently and bent over to carry his wife and child in arms. I'm sorry, Kazashi. Please wait for me. I will. Haruno Kazashi, whose expression had completely switched to Hokage mode, didn't bother to turn around and look. All he heard was that unique sound when Minato activated his signature move, the Flying Thunder God. As the fourth Hokage turned his back and started to step forward, nothing would stop him. After the shun sound, a figure suddenly appeared in a hidden room where countless kunais were engraved with the marking of Flying Thunder God. Carefully placing 2 equally fragile beings on the bed, the man about to turn around and leave the room only stopped when he heard his wife's pleading voice. Minato, you must come back to me alive, to our son Menma, I beg you, please. I promise. Although he couldn't see Kushina's face, he could still feel the fear and despair in her slightly trembling words. Silently stood there for a good few seconds before moving out. Namikaze Minato did end up gave a firm answer to the woman he loved. I'll be right back. Just few minutes ago. In just the blink of an eye, Konoha, which was originally quiet and peaceful, turned into hell. The buildings that were knocked into the air by Kyuubi's huge sharp claws, and the residents who frantically running around were quickly crushed to death by the aforementioned buildings that fell from the sky. For a while, the cries of people on the verge of death were filled everywhere in Konoha. Under the chilling moonlight, the gigantic monster that had been sealed for dozens of years uttered a howl that could pierce the clouded sky. A dark energy ball slowly gathered in its huge mouth, looked ominously dangerous and powerful, was blasted in front of the eyes of ninjas who came to defend the Kyuubi's attacks. Seeing that Hokage Rock, which symbolized the village itself, was about to be razed to the ground, Kazashi, who arrived at the same time as the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, suddenly shouted, "Do it, Minato." Roger that. As the figure appeared on the head of 4th Hokage's statue in a flash, the young man suddenly threw several kunais at the tailed beast bomb that was flying towards this direction. Right before the moment kunais was about clashed with the attack, he used Flying Thunder God and successfully transferred the tailed beast bomb to the arranged point outside Konoha village in case anything happened. Therefore, in order to keep the attack as far away from the village and residents as possible, Minato chose the westernmost teleportation point. Accompanied by the powerful shock of the land, the tailed beast bomb dropped to the ground and created a horrifying yet also spectacular-looking black mushroom cloud in the process. Whoa, look, that has to be Minato-sensei. Inside this village of chaos and scream, unlike many other residents who were either gasping for air or running for life, Hitaki Kakashi, whose eyes were staring straight at the scene, completely ignoring the people around him, and excitedly shook his friend Might Guy's shoulders like crazy. "That's the yellow flash of Konoha. Hey, did you see that, Guy? Minato-sensei is really amazing. As expected of the man who almost became the 4th Hokage. I feel like I'm going to die. On the other hand, Guy looks like his soul was trying to escape through his mouth, though at last the thing actually came out was not his soul but some mysterious substance that instantly scared Kakashi away. Ew, that's gross. This is so gross. Guy, at least don't puke this way." Almost let go of his hand reflexly, the white-haired teen escaped the scene despite being the one who started it. "I'm going to help others. You better hurry up and follow up." After that, Kakashi completely ignored the hand of his best friend, and proceeded to jump into the center of the chaos as he speaks. "So, do you have any plan, Kazashi?" The retired 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, asked the man beside him solemnly. "Yes, after all, I can't just leave everything to Minato." Haruno Kazashi smirked at the old man. Then the next order he gave was towards the reinforcements who gathered around him. "Fugaku, I need you to select a few trustworthy men and come with me. And the rest of the police force members shall be responsible for the evacuation of nearby citizens. Hiruzen-sama, I entrust you with the command, is that okay with you?" "Leave it to me, but are you sure it's enough? And what about the candidate of next Nine Tails Jinchuriki?" Hiruzen pondered for a moment and agreed with the man's decision. However, when he mentioned the following question, the retired Hokage subconsciously glanced at Namikaze Minato, who was still standing on Hokage Rock. Kazashi frowned as if he could understand what the Lord Third trying to imply, but he immediately rejected the suggestion. "No, Kushina just gave birth not too long ago, she is in the weakest state for now. This means she is not capable of being the next Jinchuriki. Also, as a close friend of Minato, I cannot tolerate this kind of behavior. That issue can wait after we subdue the Nine Tails." "I see." Though he didn't say it loud, Hiruzen was still surprised by his successor's perceptiveness. "You are the Hokage now, so naturally you should be the one who makes the hard decision. In that case, Fugaku and others, please be careful." "Understood, Hiruzen-sama." Behind the two, Uchiha Fugaku had already selected 4 clansmen he trusted the most. First, he nodded at the old man and then followed Haruno Kazashi rushing towards the direction where Kyuubi was raging on. "Fugaku, I heard that the Uchiha's Sharingan can control the tailed beasts. Is that true?" Along the way, Kazashi suddenly asked the current head of Uchiha a question. "Yes, it's true. The first leader of Uchiha clan personally tested it after temporarily left the village and captured 9 tails successfully. However, the problem is that was during the early days of the Konoha founding period along with the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama-sama. To be honest, I'm not confident enough to say I can do it. After all, it is said that the first strength was way beyond normal standards in every regard. Without any hesitation, Uchiha Fugaku admitted honestly. It's okay if it doesn't work, give it a try. If it can temporarily stop that monster's destruction, it's good in my book. Understood, so the reinforcements are coming. Looking at Kazashi, Fugaku and the others rushing towards this direction. Minato wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then proceeded to jump off from the Hokage rock. Quickly twisting his body, the blonde man threw a kunai in midair to the Nine Tails' direction. Soon, his figure disappeared in the dim light. Like competing in a relay race, the thrown kunai also had the markings of Flying Thunder God written on it. As the second Minato was teleported there, he kept doing the same thing until he finally reached Kyuubi's location. Due to the amazing speed of Flying Thunder God, Minato, who was the farthest away, was the first one to arrive. So when the giant monster found out his first prey, it immediately recalled that it was this man who sent its tailed beast bomb outside the village. Angered by the discovery, Kyuubi raised its claws immediately without thinking whether the attacks even reached the target. This monster must be kept away from the village, away from Kushina and Menma. Landing on the rocks and debris flying all over the sky in order to dodge every attack, Minato's brow frowned even more. The problem is that even I can send the big guy outside Konoha, it's still not enough. In order to protect the village I will have to. While he was thinking about how to countermeasures the Nine Tails, the rogue beast, who was destroying everything around it at will, suddenly stopped moving. What happened? Eyes widened in surprise, Minato saw the bloodthirsty pupils of the beast began to change, and gradually turned into something he could recognize. Minato, are you okay? Turning his attention to the familiar voice, what Minato saw was Uchiha Fugaku's Sharingan's gleam of crimson. Fugaku and Kazashi, you guys are here too. So that must be. Thanks to Fugaku, we have some spare time. Hurry up, Minato. Use your Flying Thunder God to move us to the outside of village. Haruno Kazashi ran to his friend's side and ordered him with a serious tone. Understanding that there is no time to waste, Minato nodded solemnly. While he put his right hand on the frozen body of Kyuubi, he also reaching out to the 6 people ran towards him. Everyone, please get a hold of me. In the next second, the colossal monster that caused countless people's nightmares disappeared under the blazing night sky. Few moments ago. Everyone, please stay calm, shelter is this way. In the middle of this chaotic night, Haruno Mebuki was also on the evacuation team until she decides to took the charge. Although very worried about her husband's safety, the lady understood this is his responsibility. So as the Hokage's wife, naturally, she can't just stand around doing nothing when such natural disaster struck the village. She must stay strong and set a good example for the people around her. Not long after Kyuubi broke the seal, someone came to inform her the emergency. Mebuki quickly made preparations and entrusted her daughter Sakura to the Anbu member. And then the Hokage's wife followed her heart to help the evacuation and injured civilians. Madam Mebuki, it's okay. Just head to shelter with the others. By her side, Yuhi Kurenai, who couldn't help but try her best to convincing the lady reconsider her choice. Sakura is waiting for you, we can take care of the rest here. Don't worry. Haruno Mebuki wavered when she heard her daughter's name, but the woman still shook her head firmly. Kurenai, I'm the wife of the 4th Hokage. Especially at time like this I need to stand tall and do my best to help calm the minds of villagers. This is part of my duty after that person became the Hokage and I'm well aware about it. But, despite understanding what the lady means, Kurenai still didn't want to give up the convincing yet. But before she could say anything else, the woman in front of her was already gone. As the kunoichi quickly looked up, all she can see was Madame Mebuki turned her back while ran towards the children who were pushed by the crowd and fell on the ground. Ouch, I'm sorry, Sasuke, are you okay? Regardless of the dust and bruise all over his own body, the older boy nervously checked the baby up and down while the small one let out an ear-piercing cry. As he repeatedly apologized to the baby in blanket, the older sibling kept asking the question, I'm really sorry, does it hurt? It's all my fault. You over there, are you injured? Leaning towards the brothers, Haruno Mebuki worriedly searched for any possible wounds on the older boy. Where are your parents? Father went to deal with Nine Tails, and we got separated from mother. Surrounded by such chaotic environment, the older sibling who was at most 5 or 6 years old showed calmness doesn't match his age. If it's not much of a trouble, excuse me for asking. Is this the correct way to the hiding shelter, madam? Correct. If you don't mind, can you tell me the name of you and your mother? Maybe I can bring both of you to her. Take another look at the siblings. The older one is so polite while the younger one is at the similar age of their precious daughter. Mebuki immediately felt warmth inside her heart. The elder brother nodded. My name is Itachi, Uchiha Itachi. And this is my younger brother Sasuke. Our mother is Uchiha Makoto. Madam, if you don't mind, please take us to our mother, thank you very much. Wait, are you Fugaku and Makoto's eldest son? After hearing his simple self-introduction, memories slowly came back to Haruno Mebuki. No wonder she didn't recognize them at a first glance. The last time she met Itachi, he was also about the same size and age of the baby in blanket now. Yes, Itachi nodded again. Hope and relief rose in his eyes. Sure, no matter how calm he behaved, it is impossible for a 5-year-old child to face this situation without any hesitation or nervousness. Madam, do you know my parents? Right, my name is Haruno Mebuki. I met you when you were very young, though you may not remember it. Helping the boy stand up again and dusting off all dirt on his clothes, Haruno Mebuki was about to reach out to his hand. It is at the same time, Kurenai rushed towards here almost hysterically. Madam Mebuki, watch out! Reflexly turning her head to the direction of Kurenai, the next thing Mebuki saw was half of a large building flying straight towards her in midair. Waiting until all the dust fell to the ground, Itachi, who was blown far away by the inertia force, felt pain from all over his body. However, no matter what happened, he didn't let go of hands and protected his younger brother. Though Sasuke's crying was even more shrill than before, as if he could feel the pain his brother was suffering at the moment. Managed to suppress the pain while opening his eyes, the boy who recalled what happened few seconds ago immediately raised his head to look around. Madam, where are? His voice was completely cut off within the next second. Itachi stared and stared. His black pupils reflected the figure surrounded by rubble and fire until it turned into a similar hue. Are you, all right? Raising her broken voice, with half of the body being crushed under the wreckage, Haruno Mebuki's face appeared a forced smile. I'm sorry, I have to push you away in such a rough way. Despite a mouthful of blood suddenly gushed out of her mouth, the expression on the woman's face was none other than simple relief. Madam Mebuki. It was only at this moment that Kurenai arrived. Before she got any closer she stopped immediately. As she doing her best to hide the struggle and sorrow, the young kunoichi understood the hopelessness of the situation in an instant. Kurenai, please, you must help them find their mother. Puked out another mouthful of blood, Haruno Mebuki's gentle gaze fixed on the boy whose face had completely lost at first but then acted like he had done something wrong. Sorry, I just promised you now, right? But it seems like I can't keep that. I'm sorry, Madam Mebuki, I never intend to. First time facing such instant yet unexpected death, Itachi felt his whole body and mind was going numb at every second. The only warmth he could still feel at the moment was the younger brother in arms he promised his mother will always protect. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Not knowing what to say at a time like this, all he could do was to apologize to his lifesaver desperately. Silly child. It's not your fault at all. Haruno Mebuki gave a wry smile, feeling that her body under the rubble had begun to lose sensations. I have a daughter who is about the same age as your younger brother, her name is Sakura. So when I see you kids, it reminds me of my own child. That's why my body moved on its own. So, you don't need to feel any guilt. Just protect your brother, Itachi. This is the responsibility of an older sibling. You can do it, right? Of course, I promise. Not only that, I will also promise to you, Madam Mebuki. If one day your daughter was in any danger, I will do my best to help. No, I will come to her rescue no matter what the circumstances is. Tighten the arms around the baby. Uchiha Itachi's expression turned into utter seriousness with unwavering determination. So, don't worry, madam, thank you for saving our lives. I will never forget what you did for me today. Staring at Itachi's face, Haruno Mebuki almost immediately believed every single word he said. Although it was not her intention to let a 5-year-old boy felt this level of gratitude, the woman smiled without saying anything more. Then she shifted her gaze to Kurenai, who was watching everything unfold with her feelings all over the places, and left her last words with the young Kunoichi. Kurenai. About what happened to me. Please keep it from my husband at a time like this. I don't want him to get distracted because of me. You also. Be careful. Bearing the regret of unable to meet her husband one last time, the fourth Hokage's wife, Haruno Mebuki, quietly swallowed her last breath. As soon as Minato used Flying Thunder God technique to transport Kyuubi and the others to the outskirts of Konoha village, Fugaku broke the Sharingan control on the demon fox. Sorry, I've reached my limit. As I expected, in order to take complete control over Nine Tails, I at least need the Mangekyo Sharingan. Panting and half-closed one eye, Uchiha Fugaku said bitterly with an apologetic tone. Can I entrust it to you guys? I will rejoin the battle immediately after I recover my visual prowess. Leave it to us for now, have a good rest. After carefully examining the surroundings, Haruno Kazashi pressed his knuckles with a confident smile on face. Minato, take a breath too, the rest follow me. I'm really sorry. Used to be partners on several occasions, so Minato and Kazashi are very familiar with each other's battle tactics and abilities. Since Minato's best strategy always will be a surprise attack, looking for any opportunities to finish the target before being noticed. As a result, the easiest way to achieve this goal is to have someone else with a strong presence to attract enemies' attention. Besides, Kazashi always hated using others as bait, so this time shall be no exceptions. Also, due to the frequent use of Flying Thunder God up till now, Minato's own chakra reserves has reached a record low. As perceptive as Kazashi, he said that deliberately after noticing the problem, even though this is not the best timing to take a break. On the other hand, since the start of Kyuubi's rampage, Minato has an uneasy feeling. As if something horrible is going to happen. Carefully remembering everything happened tonight, the origin of this nightmare was already suspicious enough to make a logic man asking all kinds of questions. But because the policy of Konoha Council, almost nobody knows the identity of Nine Tails' Jinchuriki. Kushina once mentioned to Minato that she was selected to be one of the candidates, but in the end it didn't matter since apparently they chose someone else. So among this group of people, Kazashi probably is the only one knows who's the current Jinchuriki of the Demon Fox. Watching as his fellow shinobi still dealing with the colossal beast, Minato's mind was filled with various thoughts, like how everything started, and how it will end. For some unknown reasons, the yellow flash of Konoha has a disturbing feeling that everything would go down badly, like really bad, and he wasn't sure if he is ready for it. No, now it's not the time to be discouraged. Nine Tails must be subdued here. I promised Kushina that I would go back to them alive, and this is the promise I intend to keep. Single quote. Looking into the earth-shattering battle in the distance mountain edge, hearing the Nine Tails roar of wrath, Sarutobi Hiruzen's face turned pale. As the time goes by, he was constantly reconsidering about whether he should go to help them. Those worrying thoughts has been accumulated in his chest for a while now. As if can read his mind, the old man with half of his body wrapped in bandages stand behind the retired Hokage decided to open his mouth. Go, Saru. You can leave the evacuation to me. Danzo. Sorry, I'm glad I can always count on you. After exchanging few seconds of glances, Hiruzen nodded. As he reached out hand and held the Jingu Bang tightly, the third Hokage disappeared in a flash. Silently watching his oldest friend rushing towards the monster fox, the bandaged old man, Shimura Danzo quickly turned around and announced to the villagers who were moving in an orderly manner. Everyone, please to stay calm, the shinobi of Konoha will protect you with our lives. Asterisk. In this fanfiction, Danzo will be calling Hiruzen like their sensei Tobirama. Danzo-sama, where's Hiruzen-sama? While he was busy with helping the Uchiha police force, another familiar voice appeared behind the man. Danzo didn't need to look back to recognize that voice was belonging to one of the council member, Utatane Kaharu. He went to aid the fourth Hokage. If you have any question just ask me. In that case, it's actually about the next Jinchuriki. We want to know both of your opinions. Hearing this, Danzo narrowed his eyes and turned around. Then, who is your best choice for the next Jinchuriki? With two Anbus following behind, another council member Mitokato Homura showed himself as well. He and Utatane Kaharu exchanged gaze for a short while, then slowly replied. We just received a report from Konoha Hospital. Namikaze Kushina, who was also a candidate for the second Jinchuriki, just gave birth to a boy tonight. So, it is safe to assume that baby should also inherited the Uzumaki clan's power and strong life force. As if self-consciously understood he's hinting something extremely unethical, Mitokado's voice was quiet and slow. But even so he didn't stop talking, despite witnessing the disgust expression appeared on Danzo's face. Speak no more, both of you. We are not the one who can decide this issue, but the parents of that newborn life. I can't tolerate such atrocious act. Never mention anything like that in front of me anymore. In the corner of shelter, only darkness resides. Surrounded by villagers' sobs and prayers, the elder sibling, Uchiha Itachi held his younger brother Sasuke tightly with left arm. In his right arm, there is a baby girl wrapped in a pink blanket also sleeps soundly like nothing would bother her. Closing his eyes while humming a soft lullaby, Itachi's tender smile bloomed. It's okay, Sasuke, Sakura-chan. It's going to be okay. Remember, we are being protected by such amazing people, so, it will be okay. Sorry for keeping you guys waiting, I'm fine now. Recovered most of his chakra, Fugaku back to the battlefield once more, and Haruno Kazashi happily welcomed his return. Then stop its move again, this time I will use the sealing technique to reseal Nine Tails. Sure, but what about the next Jinchuriki? While obeying the order and proceed to restrain Nine Tails, Fugaku's attention kept drifting towards Minato from time to time. It seemed like he and Hiruzen shared the same opinion for wanting to make Kushina or Menma to inherit the power of Nine Tails. On the other hand, Konoha's infamous yellow flash fully understand the meaning behind those looks. Bitten down his lower lip and looked away, Minato decided to leave the problem to the fourth Hokage, to his friend. However, what he didn't expect was the answer Kazashi ultimately gave away. No, I'll be the next Jinchuriki. Minato, I remember you mentioned something like Kushina taught you Uzumaki's sealing techniques before, right? Can you use it on me? What? No, wait, Perking up, Namikaze Minato shockingly stared into his best friend's eyes. Do you understand what you just said? Kazashi, if it's your order, Don't be stupid, Minato. As a father, I totally understand what's on your mind now. Kushina is too weak to become the next Jinchuriki. No one would want their newborn son shoulder such heavy burden. As for yourself, I can tell even by now you still need more time to recover all those chakra from defending the village. So, I will be the one handling the problem from now on. But, if I use Reaper Death Seal? Not fully convinced, the blonde man opened his mouth and tried to say something, but Kazashi would have none of this. You idiot, do you want Kushina become a widow on the birthday of your child? If you die, what will become of her, and what about your son Menma? Lowering his voice, the anger perished in a second and the big man smiled at his friend. There's no need for you to sacrifice in a place like this. Remember? That's the Hokage's job, not yours. I'm here. I'm so sorry. For the first time, Namikaze Minato despised his own selfishness and shallowness from the bottom of heart. Yes, between the Leaf Village and his own family, he chose the latter one because he believed he lacked the strength to protect everyone. He had already failed Obito, he couldn't save his own student, he couldn't arrive at the right time despite being titled the Yellow Flash of Konoha. That's why he chose the family over his village, because he didn't believe himself could shoulder the responsibility called Hokage. However, in exchange of that, the consequences of his choice started to impact the sense of justice and duty Minato upheld until now. Is it right to sacrifice someone else's happiness for his own? Of course not, especially when that certain someone else being a close friend and has always looked after him. There's no need for you to be burdened by my decision, Minato. As the fourth Hokage of Konoha, I am more than capable of suppressing Nine Tails, so it's not all bad in the end. Well, shall we start? After all, I don't want to keep Fugaku waiting. Gently tapped Minato on shoulder. Haruno Kazashi turned around, and those 5 kanjis, Si Dai Mu Huo Ying, on the back of the Hokage cloak were so hard for Minato to not avert his gaze, all because those words were the greatest mockery of the ninja way he followed until today. Roger that. Slowly loosened the clenched fists, Minato finally decided to take the first step and walking towards his friend and superior. Then he raised his arms started to forming hand signs for sealing the Nine Tails. However, right at this crucial moment, the monster fox's pupil, who may had instinctively sensed the imminent threat, suddenly change. Subconsciously covered his stinging right eye, Uchiha Fugaku shouted out in horror. Lord Fourth, Minato, please hurry up the sealing jutsu. I can't hold on too long. On the other hand, the newly arrived Sarutobi Hiruzen was horrified by everything unfold in front of him. The familiar three-tomo shape in the behemoth's scarlet eyes gradually disappearing one by one until they complete vanished. Then, a low yet husky voice that full of terrifying rage echoed the whole area. Can't be sealed by punny humans. I won't let you pests imprison me in that place again, die. Snap opened its eyes, Nine Tails, which was originally under Sharingan's control, raised its sharp claws. As if it had a deep understanding that Minato is the crucial one here, the fox demon tried to struck the man with his back turned with lightning speed. Minato, behind you! Hiruzen, who was way out of the range, shouted at the top of his lungs and then stomped on the ground to the rescue. Everything happened so fast, even the brain reacted back, but his exhausted body and chakra reserve left Namikaze Minato absolutely defenseless at this fatal moment. It is almost ironic that the man who's being feared as Konoha Yellow Flash in Third Shinobi War was so helpless at a time like this. Let out a laugh deep inside his heart and prepared for the worst, Minato bitterly remembered today reminds him how he failed to save Obito on time. However, it seems like the will of the world had other plans. Right before the claws were about to penetrate his body, the man stand closest to Minato, Haruno Kazashi, made an unexpected move. Unable to hold back his breath, Minato felt that hard strike almost knocked out his conscience as his whole body was thrown away by the impact for several feet. As he coughing hard, the blonde Jonin recognized that taijutsu. It is Kazashi's signature move, Broken Break Palm. Asterisk. Since I have no idea how Haruno Kazashi fights, so this is a taijutsu I just made up. However, it's still got a proper name. Broken Break Palm. Duan Sha Zhong, Dan Setsu Sho. Wait. Kyuubi tried to kill me, and then. As memory slowly crawls back, Minato's mind goes numb, his head weighs a ton, he is afraid of finding the truth about what become of Kazashi after that strike. However, he couldn't just turn around and run away from the reality, he didn't deserve that. No matter how cruel the scene might be, Namikaze Minato feels he has no right to avoid the consequences of his decision. That's right. It was a selfish choice made by himself, but in the end it was someone else paid the price. Like fate herself tried to pull a prank, the fourth Hokage, Haruno Kazashi took the same action at the same time as his wife Mebuki, to protect others. And meet the exact tragical end as final result. Lord Fourth, no, Kazashi. Eyes shockingly widened, Uchiha Fugaku's face paled like all blood get drained in an instant. What followed next was the spurt of disbelief and regret that swarmed over his mind. At this moment, all he felt was pure self-hatred and anger. Damn it. In a burst of dust, Fukagu punched the ground with all his might. It was his fault. It was his weakness that caused Kazashi's death. If he was stronger, then none of these would happen. When all kinds of emotion washing through Fukagu's mind, the other four Uchihas were astonished to find that their current clan leader's Sharingan started to change. His three tomo began to spinning and transforming into a more complicated pattern. As Fugaku's most trusted men, they can tell those are the Mangekyo Sharingan, which had been lost for a long time since peace bestowed upon this land. It's all because I'm too weak that I can't restrain Nine Tails properly. I'm the one who let my friend, Kazashi died. His chest was filled with sorrow and rage towards his powerless self. Uchiha Fugaku, who had also sensed the change with his Sharingan, is not happy at all. It is true he and Kazashi were rivals for the seat of fourth Hokage, but even under that premise, the two were also close friends and colleagues who can share a drink and talk about literally everything. He is a friend Fugaku wholeheartedly respect, and a worthy rival bested him in the election of fourth Hokage fair and square. In the end, Fugaku lost him for the exchange of Mangekyo Sharingan. It's definitely not a fair trade at all. Under the sharp claws of Nine Tails, a stalwart figure was standing firmly on the spot, refusing to back down. While a streak of blood escaping his mouth, the man's body remained motionless, as if he regarded his fatal injury as nothing important. Clenching his fists and opening his eyes again, Fugaku used the newly acquired Mangekyo power to regain control of Nine Tails. This time he made sure that the behemoth could not escape. Kazashi managed to get up from the ground, while feeling his body was still aching from the impact. Namikaze Minato stumbled to the side of the man who was just sharing his happiness being a father. As he knelt down on the ground, the expression on his face was on the verge of breakdown. Don't blame yourself too much, Minato. I just fulfilled my duty as a Hokage. In order to seal the 9 tails, your power is essential, not to mention. Coughing up another mouthful of blood, the man barely put on a soft smile. As your friend, I can never stand by and watch you die. If that happened, Kushina and Menmal be sad. You promised them, right? To go back alive. But Minato opened his mouth and nothing came out. But aren't you the same, Kazashi? Wouldn't Mebuki and Sakura-chan sad for your death too? Hiruzen-sama, watching Sarutobi Hiruzen slow down his step while getting close here, Haruno Kazashi apologized with his breath turning more and more shallow. What happened to me? It's neither Fugaku nor Minato's fault. I'm sorry, but can I leave the rest to you? Of course, you fool. With tears accumulated in his eyes, the old man already knew it was too late for his successor. We will seal 9 tails properly. This time, without any problem. So, you can rest in peace, Kazashi. Having received the confirmation from his predecessor, Haruno Kazashi's whole body finally loosened. Holding the last breath, he looked again at Minato who was standing solid like a rock. Silently shook his head, Kazashi decided to use his last moment to reassuring his old friend. Back then, it was you who gave me the chance at becoming the 4th Hokage, and also because of you, my childhood dream can finally come true. Thank you very much, Minato. My death was never your fault, so stop blaming yourself. Promise me, take good care of Konoha for me from now on. Even if you don't want to sit on the seat of Hokage, it's okay since that's your choice. Just protect the village like your most precious treasure. Yes, I will. After a brief moment, Namikaze Minato nodded and gave out a firm answer with resolve quietly forming in his chest. It's almost like his mind being set on something very important just now. Despite having no idea what's on Minato's mind, a satisfied grin appeared on Kazashi's face. As the man turned his gaze to the distant sky, he muttering to himself with a tad of bitterness. I'm sorry, Mebuki, Sakura. I wish you two the best. Please live a happy life even without me around, my beloved wife and daughter. Hiruzen-sama. Can you guys wait for a little longer? Shortly after everyone rescued Haruno Kazashi's body from Kyuubi's claw, Minato suddenly broke the silence. Sure, but what are you planning to do? The 4th Hokage made a heroic sacrifice, so it's natural for the 3rd took over the leadership again. He glanced at the man who was awfully quiet at the time and quickly responded. I'm going to bring the next Jinchuriki here. Fugaku, can you wait for me? Yes. Uchiha Fugaku, with the help of newly acquired Mangekyo Sharingan, has greatly improved power compared to his former self, thus with no problem of waiting for his comrade's return. Not to mention, Minato's fast. Thank you. As his voice suddenly cut off, Namikaze Minato's figure also vanished in front of everyone within a second. And the next time he showed himself, there was a red-haired woman and a baby in his arms. Minato. What happened? Why did we end up here? 9 tails. Feeling the embrace of her husband loosened, Namikaze Kushina tiredly opened her eyelids. But the moment she saw the giant red fox in front of her, her whole body froze like a block of ice. Minato. Recognizing the two newcomers' identities, even the most dense person could tell what's on Namikaze Minato's mind. Sarutobi Hiruzen turned his head towards the blonde man with a mixed expression. Are you sure about it? Kazashi was against this till the very end. Yes, I have made up my mind. Bending over to take the baby away from his weak and still confused wife. Minato took a few steps forward, then squatted down and smacked his palm on the ground. With a soft, puff sound, a small ritual altar appeared out of thin air. Gently placed the baby in the center of altar, the blonde man calmly relayed his decision to his wife, without any hesitation. Alright, now all we need is the 8-sign seal. Wait a minute, Minato. The 8-sign seal. The still numbed body moved all because of the mother's love. Kushina stumbled and almost fell, but in the end still successfully clung on her husband's waist. Add to that, the woman's voice was filled with utter desperation. What do you plan to do to Menma? I'm sorry, Kushina. I've decided to make Menma the next Jinchuriki of Nine Tails. As the man she loved quietly answered the question, a sense of unfamiliarity rose in Kushina's stomach. It almost like he was speaking some foreign language she just didn't understand. Jinchu. But he is our son, Minato. For the first few seconds, she didn't have any reaction. However, after moving her gaze to the paused Kyuubi not far away, Kushina finally understood what her husband was about to do, and pleaded with all her heart. If you need someone to become a Jinchuriki, I can do it. Please, don't let our child. Don't let Menma bear such a heavy burden, Minato. No, Kushina. You are still too weak. There is a high chance that Nine Tails will break through the seal again. If that happens, it will be too late. I can't take that risk. Slowly shaking his head, Namikaze Minato looked at his wife's desperate face with sad eyes. This is a request that must be accomplished. And my friend's last wish, you must understand. I don't understand. I don't want to understand it. Sensing the unwavering determination from the man she loves, Kushina couldn't help but covering her mouth sobbing. The safety of the village, the peace of the country, or the future of the world. What do those things have to do with Menma? Why do we have to put all those responsibilities on an innocent child? Today is his birthday, as his parents. We gift him the weapon that was able to destroy the world? Minato, please, let me take Menma's place as the next Jinchuriki. Even if I fail, I can take the Nine Tails with me, to my death. Because that way we can reduce the interval between now and when it merges again. Then you can live your life with our son. But that's the safest way to do it, right? Interrupting his love's words, Namikaze Minato clenched his fists, his voice trembling. It's not just you, Kushina. I would always willing to die for my son, because that is the father's duty. But do you know? Kazashi just sacrificed his life to save me. I was the one pushed him to become the fourth Hokage. It's the responsible I'm afraid to face head on. But now Mebuki and Sakura-chan lost their husband and father because of it. That's why I've decided. As the one being left behind, we must respect the wishes of the deceased. We must live on, you and me, together. Then guide this child to the end. If one day he goes down the wrong path, we will be responsible to make him turn around. This is the most important thing of being a parent, isn't it? Minato, I'm not doing this just for the village, but also for Kazashi, you, Menma, myself. And the many people who died this night. So, please understand. Completely overwhelmed by her husband's words, Kushina's tired eyes drifted to Haruno Kazashi's corpse not far away. As tears continued to streak down her cheek, the woman seems like given up on changing her husband's mind anymore. Instead, Kushina's whole body fell back to the ground like a puppet that had lost its strings. All Namikaze Kushina could do was stare blankly at the man she loves, who's slowly walking towards the altar with a bitter look on his face. As he stretched out his hand to the newborn baby, his calm yet sad voice echoed. 8 Sign Seal. Quietly listening to this similar yet somehow differentiated story, Naruto felt that he lost all words. Everything he could do was stare at the father who came from the limited Tsukuyomi world silently continued his confession. However, words are cheap. In the end, after all these years, we have forgotten our original purpose. Even if it was because we mistook you for Menma at the time. Staring at the blonde boy in front of him, Minato shook his head, his tone filled with self-loathing and disappointment. Both I and Kushina have forgotten the promise that day. We failed to see the change of our own child, failed to understand his struggle and intention. At long last, failed to see the big picture and stopped because my own limitations. In the end, I almost gave up the last chance of saving my son, before you woke me up from that shallow dream. That's why I am very grateful for your words. Feeling the hand gently rubbed on his head, Naruto lowered his gaze with a shy smile. Thank you for redefining what a father is, and thank you for telling me what I need to improve to become a better father that my son would be proud of. Like I expected, you are such a good child. Hee. You are welcome, hee. Overjoyed after hearing the praise, Naruto saw his other dimensioned father. Minato took a glance at the stars in the sky, and then proceeded to finishing his confession. In short, my side of story ended here. Since it's getting late, you should rest as soon as possible. I promised Killer B-kun to give him a full explanation, and I think it is also necessary to inform Tsunade-sama of this world, or I can think of several awkward situations might happen if they found out this without further notice. So I believe tomorrow probably gonna be even more chaotic, be prepared, Naruto. Huh? Well, if that's the case, then I'll bring Dad to Granny Tsunade. Hearing this, Naruto immediately jumped up excitedly. Kakashi-sensei and Super Bushy Brows Sensei must want to meet you too. And Iruka-sensei, Shikamaru, Choji and others. Ah, yes, Sakura-chan should understand what happened here. Also, there. Okay, then I will count on you for my debut tomorrow. As the young teen enthusiastically talked like he couldn't wait to introduce his father to his friends, Minato chuckled. But I don't want to cause any commotion, after all. Today is the last day I gave any elder heart attack. Speak of him. Maybe you can visit the hospital for me, since I can't do that. It's all on me. Don't worry, Dad. Proudly patted on his chest, the boy suddenly realized something while ran to the closet. He dragged out a set of blanket and pillows, and then spread them on the floor next to his bed. Dad, you sleep on the bed tonight. I can just crush on the floor. No. It's your house, so of course you sleep on your own bed. I'm okay with floor. Well, if you say so. Quickly got into the bed, Naruto stared his father walk to the door and turned off the lights. His eyes traced the blonde man's back and refused to turn away, not until he confirmed that Minato lied down not too far away. This is when the teen finally whispered something he had been wished for decade. Good night, Dad. Yeah, good night, Naruto. What a simple interaction, but Naruto felt tremendous happiness from it. As his consciousness slowly fading into the dreamland, the smile stubbornly remained on his face. Eyes snapped open, feeling the morning sunshine's warmth spread around his limbs. Uzumaki Naruto stared at the ceiling with bewildered eyes for a few seconds before jumping up from the bed. Something is different today. Naruto always have bad sleeping habits, thus every time he wakes up, the blanket supposed to be on his body is either on the floor, or rolled into a ball while he clinging on it. But today, as soon as the teen woke up, he was surprised to find that not only the blanket was still on the right place, but also a fresh smell of food lingering around the room. Naruto took a deep breath before confirming the scent seemed to be coming from outside the bedroom. And this is the moment his brain started to recall memory about what happened yesterday. The teenager immediately looked down to his bed. As soon as he saw the empty yet clean floor, he gasped and jumped up. Without bothering to brush his teeth, Naruto rushed out of the bedroom. Dad, are you still here? Naruto looked around like having a panic attack, like he was scared of something. He is afraid that everything happened yesterday was just a genjutsu or a dream, and that happiness he felt is merely an illusion. In the end, he is still very alone. Naruto was so afraid of this conclusion. However, sorry, did I wake you up? I just made some breakfast, let's eat together. Fortunately, this time it seemed like it was not some dream or Madara's twisted scheme. Right after hearing the familiar voice from the kitchen, Naruto saw the father of Limited Tsukuyomi carefully carried pots and plates with him while walking closer. As soon as this happened, his whole body relaxed. Then the blonde boy happily sat down at the dining table eager to start a new day before getting reminded he needs to do the morning routine first. The journey to the Hokage's building. To be honest, it was much more smooth than Naruto expected. It is true that the fourth Hokage's face can be seen from all angles as long as in the village, but the people who can actually related the man walk alongside him to the face on Hokage Monument are usually old enough to be an uncle or aunt, sometimes, even Gramps. Glancing at his father who is also curious about this different world, Naruto couldn't hide his chuckles. Thus even they did receive several suspicious looks along the way, it did not cause any big trouble. As planned, this father-son duo, different dimension though, arrived at the Hokage building located in the center of the village safely. Now it's the hard part. Naruto took a deep breath and walked towards the guarding shinobi at the front door. Hey mister, I have things to report to Granny Tsunade, would you please inform her for me? Oh, isn't this Naruto-kun? It's pretty rare to spot you this early. Could it be something emergency? The shinobi at the gate was a familiar face, so he greeted Naruto with an easygoing tone. However, when his eyes turned to the man followed behind the young hero of Konoha, his whole body tensed. Wah, how's everything going, Naruto? No need to worry, you can leave it me. Also, Dad, stop just walk up like it's nothing special. Seeing the guard looked like been put into a paralysis jutsu, Naruto couldn't help but sighed. Then he pointed at his father like already given up on explaining the situation. This is my dad, he has something to report to Granny Tsunade. Completely stunned. Hi, sorry to drop on you like this, but I'm Namikaze Minato, is there any way you can help us or let us pass? Literally began to introduce himself, Minato politely smiled at the shinobi still in shock. I understand you probably know who I am, but there is a legitimate reason for all this to happen. So I would like to have a word with the current Hokage. Lord Fourth. Would you please inform Tsunade-sama for me? Yes. I'll be right back, sir. Please wait for a minute, Lord Fourth. Immediately after Minato opened his mouth, the shinobi jumped up and rushed into the building like being chased by some monster. It didn't take long for the two heard bunch of footsteps running towards here. Turning his body around to look, it appears to be Tsunade herself, the fifth Hokage along with bunch of Anbu members. Minato, is that really you? Minato. Her loud voice resounded through the entire space even before she reached the father-son duo. Immediately afterwards, Minato saw a woman closely resembled someone he knew back in his world, but somehow completely different in certain aspect, was charging at him in full speed. Dad, WH. Where you looking at? Hello? Dad, I'm going to tell mom you know. Naruto couldn't help complaining immediately after he found out his father's shocking gaze was fixed on certain moving body parts. Excuse me, that was rude of me. The reason I stare at them not because I have any dirty thoughts, but because it's completely opposite from the Tsunade-sama in my memory, so, Having cold sweat dripping down his face like crazy, Minato waved his hands desperately. As he lowered his voice in embarrassment, the blonde Jonin turned to Naruto for further explanation. Excuse. Please, don't tell Kushina about this. Seeing his desperate reaction, Naruto almost couldn't hide his laughter. The truth is, even if you want to be a snitch, it's impossible to do that now. Both of them should know about this, but Naruto just can't stop teasing his father. At this moment, Tsunade was already in front of the two. First, she checked that familiar face for a while, and then frowned. Okay, this is not a good place to have our conversation. Minato, Naruto, you two come with me. Sure, Granny Tsunade. Understood, Tsunade-sama. While surrounded by the Anbu members and their suspicious gaze, Minato didn't show any signs of distress or fluster. This is the first step to gain their trust. I have to act nature to show them I'm trustworthy. He quietly rethought about his plan. His son might haven't noticed this yet, but Minato was certain none of them here, including Tsunade herself, completely believed his existence. In fact, that's the reason they all keep an eye on him like a hawk and prepared everything if he suddenly decide to strike, as expected as how Hokage's elite guards should act. But it didn't matter, Minato never expect the people in this world would trust him like Naruto did. Not this fast. He just need to prove to them he had no ill intention towards village in general. This is his first and last chance to achieve his goal. He can't afford to mess it up. Hey, did you see that? The man just passing by. Not long after Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Naruto entered the building, the rumor about 4th Hokage suddenly revived through Edo Tensei, reanimation jutsu, spread throughout the entire building like a wildfire. Almost everyone was wondering about what happened here. From the cleaning staff to the members of the Anbu, people just couldn't hold their curiosities. Like I said, it's not Edo Tensei no jutsu. It's pretty obvious if you look at his eyes. That Lord Fourth is alive, definitely not a reanimation. As the rumor getting more and more ridiculous, the shinobi interacted with Minato began to clear the misunderstanding here. Fortunately, the Lord Fifth herself personally banned this matter from spreading to the village, thus prevented any commotion among the citizens. However, people's interest were piqued to say the least. If it's not Edo Tensei no jutsu, then what is it? How could a person who has been dead for so many years suddenly got revived? Could he be a spy? How the hell should I know? What I knew is that Lord Fourth was at least a living person. Besides, what kind of spy stupid enough to charge head first into enemy's base without a second thought? Believe it or not, I do think he is the real deal. And even if I'm wrong, Lady Tsunade already prepared the worst. Quote, in fact, there are more Anbu elites was given the order to stay alert while they have the confrontation in Hokage office. Just in case something unexpected happened. Suddenly, someone joined the heated debate. Lord Fourth, do you mean Minato-sama? Of course, who else could it be? Huh? You are Guy-san, right? Instantly called out the newcomer's name from his iconic green tights and haircut. The shinobi guarding the entrance nodded. Then he seemed to remember the connection between the man in front of him and the Lord Fourth in topic. Guy-san. You're a friend with Kakashi-san, right? I think you should inform him about this situation. Just now, the deceased former 4th Hokage, Namikaze Minato-sama and Uzumaki Naruto came to meet Lady Tsunade. What, seriously? As expected, Guy's face filled with shock and disbelief. He studied the face of the shinobi who told him such ridiculous story and couldn't find a trace of joking in his expression. As the man hesitated for a while like trying to figure out how to process the information he just obtained, Guy raised his head and nodded. I see, I'll let Kakashi know right away. Leading the two back to her office, Tsunade immediately saw her apprentice Shizun's dumbfounded face after her sight reached the tall man's face. She then dismissed the Anbu elites by simply glancing at them and they proceed to wait outside. But Minato could tell they're not far gone by the chakra presence, hence this is the way Tsunade showing him despite having doubts. She would like to give Minato a chance to explain himself. As the female Hokage turned around and sat down on the chair, her gaze silently fall upon the two. From her perspective, Naruto was still beaming at his father Minato, with a smirk on face, and Minato's eyes were darting back and forth on Taunton, as if he had seen something even more confusing. Sensing this weird atmosphere might last longer than she thought, Tsunade decided to take the initiative and start with a light cough. Okay, now can you guys explain to me what's going on? Naruto, you sure he is the real deal? Yes, Granny, I assure you. He is very real, neither revived by Edo Tensei nor by using a transformation jutsu. I can definitely tell. The boy's body tensed up right after being questioned. As if remembering yesterday's little skirmish, Naruto quickly glanced the door behind like he perfectly understood his next sentence would decide many things. He is my dad, I'm telling you the truth. His chakra nature is exactly the same like the last time I meet him. A simple transformation jutsu couldn't imitate chakra, am I right? Granny? Naruto. Feeling the desperation in the teen's words, Namikaze Minato gently bowed his head. But that being said, Tsunade-sama, I am also not the 4th Hokage you people are familiar with. I'm just an ordinary shinobi that originated from a different dimension. Oh? Recalling the Sakura, who suddenly appeared in the village with twisted memories, Tsunade seemed to have quickly grasped the situation. You mean that you too are? That's correct. This father came from the limited Tsukuyomi world that Masked Man took us to before. In that world, Dad didn't become the 4th Hokage, thus he didn't sacrifice his life. And now he came here because of that guy Madara stole the yin chakra over there. So Dad traveled here to take back the 9 tails chakra that doesn't belong to this world. He is definitely not suspicious or a spy. Mustering all his strength, Naruto tried his best to sang praises for Minato, fearing any unnecessary misinterpretations that might cause trouble. In summary, all of these happened because our world's failure, so I feel it's necessary for us to help Dad retrieve the stolen 9 tails chakra, Granny. You think so too, right? The excess power that doesn't belong to this world is very dangerous. Okay, I get it. You don't need to yell this loud. As the boy's voice raising even more, Tsunade immediately leaned back before turning her eyes to Namikaze Minato, who fell into silence after hearing Naruto's words. Minato, you said you were just a ordinary shinobi who didn't become the 4th Hokage, didn't you? So let me ask you, can you still use the technique of Flying Thunder God? Huh? Never expected this comeback. Minato stunned for a second before admittedly nod his head. Yes, I can. Then what about other techniques? Senjutsu? Rasengan? Can you still use them? Excuse my intrusion. The reason I asked in such detail was to understand your strength, please pay no mind. It's okay. Well, I do know a little bit about senjutsu but definitely not good at it. Because it took me way too long time to infuse chakra and maintain it. As for Rasengan, though I don't know what that is, but it sounds close to Rasenrinkaku asterisk, kanji. Rasenrinkaku, katakana. Rasenrinkaku, maybe it's a similar move? Pondering, Minato suggested back. N. Special explanation for my original variation of the existing signature move. Rasenrinkaku, Luo Zanlun Hei. The Limited Tsukuyomi Veer. Of Rasengan, also inspired by Kurama's tail beast bomb. It looks similar to Menma's Dai Rasenringu used in movie but with a color scheme close to Rasengan's light blue. Also there are 2 layers of planetary rings, shaped like an X, surrounding it. Theoretically, the power is similar to an ordinary Rasengan, but the planetary rings around the sphere can add extra blow-away effect to enemies, and by adding layers of planetary rings can increase its destructive power. Right now the limits are 5 layers, but it could be topped by infusing more chakra. However, it's not recommended because not only it needs way more chakra to do so, but also could be very deadly and hard to control. It might overkill opponent and cause unnecessary damage to the surrounding area. I made this original technique because in movie Minato never recognized Rasenringu when Menma as the masked man used it, so I assume he must has other similar technique that being the counterpart of Rasengan in canon world. Huh? Rasenrinkaku? Interesting. So it seems like there is no power difference between you from our world and yourself. Carefully measuring the man in front of her, Tsunade looked quite amusing. Are you sure about this ordinary shinobi thing? Let's be honest here, being able to use Flying Thunder God proficiently is already a very impressive achievement, not to mention I haven't met anyone strong enough to pull this off other than you and my great uncle Tobarama. You are still way too modest for your own good, Minato. Ah, ha ha ha, is that so? Rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment, the blond man awkwardly replied back. Soon after a brief silence between the three, Minato couldn't help but ask a question about the name popped up in their conversation. There is one thing I don't get it. What do you mean by, that guy Madara stole the yin chakra over there, this Madara? Ah yes, according to Naruto and Sakura's report, there is no such person named Uchiha Madara in your world, correct? Well, like the name suggested, this Madara belongs to the Uchiha clan and also their first clan leader in the Peace Era. He was one of the strongest shinobi, a legend considered by many even in recent days. He was my grandfather, Senju Hashirama's old rival and best friend, and he is also the culprit trying to instigate a world war against all nations. What? World war? And why are you and Naruto keep saying, there's no such person named Uchiha Madara in my world? Minato frowned at his son who was nodding while listening to the explanation, clearly confused. What do you mean by Uchiha Madara never existed? Huh? Excuse me? Seeing all 3 heads quickly turned to face his direction, the blonde Jonin realized they clearly have some kind of misunderstanding here. Hold on a minute, Dad. Do you mean, Madara does exist in your world? But if that's the case, why did Hinata, Shikamaru and others had no idea who he was when I asked them back then? Hinata and Shikamaru. Those kids don't know who Madara is. Sign. The man fell silent. As the awkward atmosphere accumulated as time goes by, he scratched the back of his head while letting out a long sigh. And then proceeded to blurt out an answer that made everyone speechless. Very well. Those kids. I guess they returned everything they learned in history class to their teacher. Thank you for letting me know. I will have a word with each one of them after I go back. Whaat? While Naruto screaming in disbelief, the expression on Tsunade's face was dead serious. So he does exist in your world? The man named Uchiha Madara. But of course, like you told me just now, Madara-sama was the legendary leader of the Uchiha clan, and he was also one of the founding member of Konoha along with the Senju clan. I can't believe he, of all people, became an enemy of Konoha. Wait, Shizune on the other hand finally couldn't bear to listen anymore and decided to interrupt. This is because she noticed something very bizarre when Namikaze Minato mentioned the ghost of Uchiha. His voice and tone were filled with emotions she wasn't familiar with while associating the dangerous man they known as Madara Uchiha. It's not fear or wariness, on the contrary, it's absolute respect. Don't tell me, the Madara in your world. Yes. Slowly nodding his head, Minato told them the shocking truth of Limited Tsukuyomi. He and the first Hokage Senju Hashirama-sama were the pride and shield of Konohagakure, still and probably will always admired by many younger generations. How difficult it is to find somebody shared the same ideology in such a chaotic world while the war raging on. Only the one has experienced those years will understand. After all, killing enemy before they kill you is an already well-established standard among shinobis. Especially between different clans, this is as fundamental as eat or rest, or breath. So in general, if you have problem with staying alive, certainly there is no room for spiritual fulfillment or emotional support. Despite all the odds, I have been praying from the bottom of my heart for the advent of peace, though that wish might be my wildest dream, I never abandoned it once. So when someone can actually empathize with my idea showed up, without saying it loud, I'm just grateful as him. Frankly speaking, I have no idea what Hashirama think of me at the moment. But as for me, that short period of time when we were young was indeed the happiest and most carefree memory in my life. Occasionally, even I'm not sure whether I could survive to see the next sunrise, but every time I opened my eyes, I get reminded that someone's waiting for me out there, waiting to share those unreal ambitions with me. I just can't hold my excitement. While time flies by, I have made many decisions that I regret later. I have fought Hashirama several times on the battlefield due to our differences. In the end, I still can't let go of the dream and future envisioned with him near the river that day. Now, despite still not sure whether my choice to join forces with the Senjus was correct or not. At least when I see the growing prosperity of the village and the radiating happiness of its citizens, the gloomy feeling has been stuck in my chest dissipated a lot. If only Izuna could see this. No, I better stop wondering about the impossibles. As if the silence was too long, Hashirama opened mouth and urged me for an answer. Like I said, the name. You have any thoughts on that? Staring at the green leaf in my hand, I can see the village through the hole in center. Slowly, I told him the name first came to mind. How about the village hidden in the leaves? First he asked me to think a name for the village, then he wasted no time to express dissatisfaction with that name. Seriously, if my naming sense is so simplistic and uninspiring, then it sucks for you to ask my opinion. After I followed my heart to give Hashirama a full session of complaint, I was not surprised to see his mood quickly sank to the rock bottom like always. Great, I see this habit of being easily depressed hasn't changed at all. Although recently I begun to suspect the reason he kept doing this all because he can get away with it. So you are saying, this so-called Hokage would stay in the village and make sure that everyone protected? Hearing my question, Hashirama immediately nodded and lowered his head. Following his gaze, I looked down to the cliff beneath my feet. It's not just that, as all our village building picks up speed, the Hokage is going to become busier as well. That's the reason why I want to have your likeness carved into this cliff, as a symbol of our village's protector. I guess he is the only one can came up with a suggestion that sound like a joke but actually rather reasonable when given some thoughts. Before I could express my further opinions, Hashirama winked at me again. But your face is a bit too stern, so we will have to soft it up. Let's be honest, each time I see his smug face, I always have an urge to return the favor as soon as possible, but before that happened I was interrupted by another familiar voice. It's Tobarama. He was here to inform Hashirama the fire daimyo had come to the village for a meeting. The man killed Izuna. It's not easy to overcome hatred, and everyone knows that well. However, because Hashirama always tried to act like an intermediary between us, so even for the sake of him, Tobarama and I avoided conflict under an unspoken understanding. But despite that level of mutual agreement, neither he nor I could look past the gap between us. This is the reality, and I know too well that one day this gap will tear the illusion of peace into shreds, then everything will fall apart. As for whether I should become the Hokage, I actually don't care about that. Though Hashirama said he wanted me to be one, but if you considering how village should operate from now on, I was not the best candidate. After all, the alliance existed simply because Hashirama tried his best to prove to me, there is a path to the peace we both dreamt of. Thus I have no problem with he being the first Hokage. However, what worries me the most is not who will be the Hokage, but the chain reaction followed after this incident. I want to believe the promise Hashirama made to me, but I also have to succumb to the unpredictability of human minds. Tobarama's wariness against the Uchiha clan, and my grudge against him are all painfully obvious. So after eavesdropping on them discussing the use of democracy to elect the Hokage, what left with me were mere despair and disappointment. It's not about Hashirama went back on his words or Tobarama's bias towards the Uchiha. I'm more angry about the reality that no matter how hard one tried to show their insides to each other, the gap will always exist. People are destined to repeat the same mistake and fail to accept each other completely. If the situation keep going on like this, war is bound to break out again, and scale of the fight won't be limited to mere proxy war between two rival clans, but among villages, even countries. By the time comes, that belief of killing for their homeland will end up driving thousands of people into further madness and creating even more chaos and bloodshed. Way worse than what we had back then. That's definitely not part of our dream. So, what to do? Lost in my own thoughts, I returned to the Uchiha district. What? Ignoring Naruto's high-pitched scream, Tsunade's face turned to the blonde man in front of her with utter seriousness. So you are saying that Uchiha Madara stayed in Konoha as a protector, am I hearing it right? Yes, Namikaze Minato confirmed her suspicion. After the death of the first Hokage, Madara-sama chose to continue assisting the Lord Second, and it is because of this action he has gained the complete trust and love from the villagers. Is it different here? Tsunade, Naruto, and Shizune stared at each other blankly, as if this is the most absurd thing they ever heard in life. But when they thought about the supposedly opposite causality of the limited Tsukuyomi, this piece of info certainly gave them a lot of mixed feelings. Unbelievable. Uchiha Madara? Protecting Konoha until the very end? That's a joke I can't even laugh at. Tsunade shifted her sitting position, feeling slightly uncomfortable. So Dad, you're telling me, not just Akatsuki, Madara was also on the Konoha's side. Wow. Naruto was amazed by this discovery. It is true he hates Madara in his world to messing with Konoha and steering Sasuke into a wrong path. However, it seems like a completely different story for the limited Tsukuyomi version of him. Call it a simple bias, but if Minato spoke highly of the man, Naruto surely would like to keep an open mind towards him. Besides, Madara as an ally? That's just overpowered. Speaking of Akatsuki, they are a mercenary group composed of S-rank missing nin in the Land of Rain, so I'm not gonna say they are on Konoha's side. But since one of their members, Uchiha Itachi, also came out of Hidden Leaf, so you can say we have business connection with them. And, Minato lowered his voice. It's getting complicated after the war. But most Akatsuki's operations were permitted by 5 great nations after the liberation of Omegakure, so, technical speaking, they are not wanted men anymore. Liberation of Omegakure? Tsunade curiously repeated the sentence. Yes, it's not related to our issue here. But right after the Third Great Shinobi War, Elder of the Hidden Rain Village hired Akatsuki attacked and assassinated their former ruler, Hanzo of the Salamander. This ended that man's long-term dictatorship over the land. So obviously, the fame made Akatsuki more popular than ever in the country. I heard its leader now consider the new ruler of Hidden Rains, and that's another reason no one bothers to hunt down their members anymore. They still take jobs from 5 nations because the village needs money to rebuild. The leader of Akatsuki. As if the past memory came back to haunt her, Tsunade frowned without further questions. On the other hand, feeling their conversation was way off topic, Naruto returned the subject back on track. Even so, I was really surprised at the time. Who would expect Akatsuki to came to my rescue? That's, kinda cool, though I still can't believe Madara being an ally of Konoha. Lady Tsunade. Is Madara-sama in this world really an enemy? Looking back and forth at the three, Namikaze Minato couldn't help asking. What did he do? Well, since you told me a lot about your world, I guess it's only fair for me to return the favor. What he did was not any simple crime, but something truly evil. The female Hokage pondered for a second, and decided to tell the man their side of stories. As far as I know, you in our world, the 4th Hokage, were indirectly killed by Madara back then. Not only you, Kushina's death, the establishment and destruction of the aforementioned Akatsuki, and the massacre of Uchiha clan. He was the man behind the curtain, the culprit of all tragedy in our world. Quietly listening to her calm yet sad voice, Minato lost all words. Kushina, she died too. And Akatsuki's destruction? The massacre of Uchiha clan? This is just... Now you understand why we are so surprised that Madara in your world would choose to stay in Konoha. After all, from our perspective, his name alone is enough to stir up absolute chaos. Tsunade lowered her sight, giving Minato time to process all the information. But I guess it's difficult for you to accept everything so fast. After all, the Madara in your dimension seems to feel like a completely different person. Minato agreed with a simple nod. Yeah, I mean he did pass away when I was born, but the reputation he left is nothing but impressive. What went wrong here? And the massacre of Uchiha. I thought that's Madara-sama's own clan? Sigh. Even if you ask me, there is no way I could know what the hell is going on in that man's mind. As a matter of fact, we were busy trying to expose his true purpose as well. If it's possible, even I'd like to ask the Madara in your world a few questions just to get some insight. Well, jokes aside. This is troublesome. If you are telling the truth about he stolen the yin half chakra of 9 tails and brought here, then. Waving her hand like having a headache, Tsunade sighed again and suddenly looked back at the man's face like remembering something. By the way, you just said something about Madara over there chose to assist the second Hokage after the death of my grandpa, right? If I recall correctly, the relationship between great uncle Tobirama and him has always been hostile. Is it different in your world? Hearing her question, Minato fell into deep thought. Then he answered with an uncertain manner. I don't know the details, but it's pretty hostile according to our world's Tsunade-sama. She once mentioned to us that Lord Second killed Madara-sama's last younger brother during the Warring States period, so their relationship were already bad to start with. Then it only got worse when the first Hokage election happened. However, this hopeless situation hit a turning point after a secret conversation between the two. As a result, each of them retreated a step in their relationship and gradually getting along with each other. Huh? Konoha's fifth Hokage narrowed her eyes with a glint of curiosity. Secret conversation? What kind? Sorry, that I don't know. Apparently both of them refused to talk about it. So even the first Hokage Hashirama himself had no idea. Quickly waving his hands, Minato let out an awkward laugh. Soon after, Madara-sama left Konoha for a while for some personal business. And when he finally returned, he brought 9 tails with him. As the blonde Jonin shook his head, he didn't catch the horrified expression of the other 3. After confirming the presence of 9 tails, Lord First and he had a disagreement about how to handle it. It is said that in order to figure out the power of tailed beasts, the two decided to settle the score with one last duel outside Konoha. At last, this is the legendary battle that created the Valley of the End. What's wrong? Why are you guys giving me that look? You said Madara was the one who brought back 9 tails. Naruto couldn't help but trembling. He raised his voice and questioned his father, feeling a little out of control. I thought the Madara in Limited Tsukuyomi supposed to be the protector of Konoha? Then why did he bring such a dangerous monster to the village? Don't forget me from the other side also suffered the same fate all because of him. Sorry, I really don't know his reasoning. Hearing the pain and stress resounding in the boy's voice, Minato patted his other dimension son on the shoulder. Many facts were lost, thanks to the flow of time, but I can confirm one thing to you. Our world Madara-sama did it without any malicious intent. On the other hand, unlike the agitated Naruto, Tsunade paid her attention to Namikaze Minato's explanations. It seems like no matter how different the situation was in this other dimension, 9 tails destined to be brought to Konoha by Madara. Also, there was a fierce battle fated to happen between Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama in the Valley of the End. The female Hokage couldn't help but interrupt Namikaze Minato, who was still trying to calm the blonde boy down. Wait a sec, what do you guys mean by, me from the other side also suffered the same fate? Appeared to be a little worried, Minato glanced at Naruto who fell to silence worriedly. Then he sighed again while repeated the same story he had told the boy to the women in front of him. The Hokage was decided, as expected. Hashirama became the first leader of Konoha. And I finally made up my mind to knock on the door of his house the next day after his face carved onto the stone wall. Madara? It's rare to see you visit this early. As soon as opened the door, Hashirama showed me his most guilty look. It was obvious that he received the notice several days ago, but he still feels awkward after all those promises he made to me. But today's situation is a little different. The person I'm looking for is not him. Facing towards Tobirama's direction, who would immediately fall into silence as soon as I entered the picture, I slowly opened my mouth. My eyes were locked onto him. I want to talk to you alone, make time for it. Okay, how about the usual place where you and my brother meet around 4 o'clock? Clearly, he did not expect such a straightforward request from me. I can see his body tensed. Knowing that I was serious, he agreed without hesitation. What? Perking up, Hashirama's head kept turning back and forth between me and his brother. But I have no intention to explain myself to him at a time like this, so after finishing my business here, I turned around and left. Before stepping outside the house, I confirmed with Toburama one last time. I'll see you then. Also Hashirama. This has nothing to do with you, so don't you dare to come along. Putting down these words, I left without looking back regardless of what those two behind me would say. Tobima is sharp, so he will definitely understand. This is the time, this is my ultimatum, my last attempt to confide in someone other than Hashirama. Recalling the stone tablet protected by Uchiha clan, and the truth about the world written on it, the path in front of me is clear now. Maybe Hashirama and I were wrong. Maybe it's time to part ways. Maybe Konoha itself was a mistake. It was not a shortcut towards peace at all, but an one-way ticket to the spiral of chaos. No, it's still too early to tell. I shook my head vigorously, as if this could shake off the doubts that were stuck deep inside my heart. Anyway, I made up my mind now. Not only to Toburama, I also want to give the dream Hashirama and I built together that day one last chance. The worst-case scenario is I will have to ask the Uchiha clan leave with me to find a new path reaching peace, though I'm not sure they're keen to do that, but oh well, it's not like I actually cared anymore. All in all, I will reconsider this issue after today's meeting with Toburama. The appointed time is closing. When I arrive at the top of Hokage Rock, I saw Toburama was already waiting. Infusing my chakra to survey the area and confirmed that Hashirama really didn't sneak up and try to hide nearby despite me telling him to stay put, I walked up to Toburama. You're here. Yes, what kind of problem you want to talk about, Madara? He turned around and looked at me, calm and serious. Also full of wariness, which is to be expected from this man. I took a step away from him and started talking. It's about Konoha's future, and the problems between us. In response to this, Toburama's frowned, as if he had never expected me to be this straightforward again. I can't forgive you for killing Izuna. This is my first time revealing my true thoughts after Izuna's death to someone else, especially when this someone is the killer of my younger brother. As results, I can tell how surprised Toburama reacted. In fact, I also believe you can never forgive me for what I have done to your clan, your family, or your brother. The hatred between us cannot be put down with just simple words, it's not that easy. Hashirama can do it because he is special, he is different from both of us. I tried it before but it really did not work out the way we hoped to be. You can understand this feeling, don't you? Toburama didn't answer, but the look on his face can tell. He agreed with every single syllables I said. If I forgive you here, Izuna will never forgive me for ignoring the bloody path our clan walked for centuries. Reminiscing the past, I raised my hand to caress the eyes Izuna left with me at his final moment. This was his proof of existence, this was his legacy. I once swore to these eyes that I would let him witness the day of peace. I can't just let go of the past like Hashirama suggested. I'm sure you are the same, however. Watching Toburama's expression became more and more stiff while hearing my words, I paused, then revealed my true feelings to the murderer of my brother. It's on the battlefield, we're at war. Even I can understand this logic. It is true I said I can't forgive you for killing my brother, but in the end, you didn't do anything wrong at a time like this. Izuna was the one responsible for his own death because he underestimated you. The situation on the battlefield has always been changing. A small mistake could bring up the biggest misfortune of losing life. His death was just a solid proof of this reality. Quote, what exactly are you trying to say, Madara? As Toburama's face getting more and more confused, I finally made up my mind. What I try to say is very simple. Izuna's death will always be the cold fact stuck with my heart and mind. But Hashirama has proved to me that there's still chance to our future, and I also don't want to give up the dream that day so soon, so, stretching out my hand, I stared at the man in front of me. This is the last time. I won't say anything easy like, let bygones be bygones to justify the mistakes we made before, but if both of us can take a step back, I'm willing to help Hashirama to make Konoha the best village in this new era, along with you. What do you think about this proposal? Toburama stared back, face shocked. As if I was somebody else used the transformation jutsu to lower his guard down in order to strike him dead. To be honest, his reaction was quite understandable. After all, even I feel I'm not acting like my usual self, but if it's for the dream and promise I persuaded so long, such small sacrifice is well worth it. Waiting patiently for his response, it seems Tobarama finally snapped out of his still numb mind. Watching him quickly regain composure, Tobarama glanced at my direction, face full of mixed feelings. Then he turned his gaze to the hand still waiting in midair, this time slowly reaching out to me. Fine. His hand is firm. If a man like you can take a step back to negotiate, it would be arrogant for me to refuse the opportunity. Madara, I will admit. I am indeed biased against you people, but now it seems like I was the one being wrong about you and your clan. He finally smiled. You are way more insightful than me on this topic. I guess it is time to stop our nonsense now. As long as we both hold the end of our bargain, there definitely will be a brighter future for this village and this land. He stopped once, as if looking for a better way to describe it. I know we have our differences, but I'd like to improve that situation as well. Also, about older brother, as his closest friend. Please keep taking good care of him. You must already aware his let's just say quirky personality, and I do believe it's gonna be a pain in the ass much later. I will keep an eye on him from now on. You please do the same. Chuckled while let go of my hand. I knew it, one day his naivety will get to him, but before that happened, I guess it's up to us to pick up the pieces he dropped. Exactly, if you're talking about his random unfounded whims. Sometimes I'm only glad he's strong so I don't need to worry about him getting tricked by a total stranger. I'm not talking about you, you know? Maybe this is the benefit of opening up. Though his expression is still a little bit forced, it's completely different from before. The heavy air between us was lifted. Speaking of Hashirama, I'm actually surprised that overprotective brother of you didn't try to follow you here. I guess he can read the atmosphere once a while. While speaking, a weird feeling rose up in my chest. Great, just about time. And here I am. Tried to praise him, improved his room reading skill. Madara? Witnessing the sudden change of my expression, Tobarama started to look around. Sighing, I turned my head and glared at the boulder behind us. You can come out now. I already noticed your chakra. What, older brother, what are you doing here? Following my gaze, Tobarama also started to infuse chakra, and then came to the same conclusion as me. You found me. Hashirama slowly walked out, stroking the back of his head while laughing awkwardly. When did you got here anyway? Since I only surveyed the area at the start of our conversation, it's pretty clear he must have arrived during the friendly discussion between me and Tobarama. Keep glaring at Hashirama, who's clearly sweating under my gaze. I heard Tobarama's voice. Older brother, I told you it's gonna be fine, right? Why are you here? Even though, I'm still a little worried. Worried about what? Worried about me killing your brother? Is that what you try to imply? No, of course not. I stared at Hashirama until he seemed to shrink in size. And I asked you when did you got here? Answer the question. Actually, it was just now. So I didn't hear anything. I swear. HMPH. I snorted again. Seeing that I'm not gonna let this slide easily, Hashirama quickly switched target. Tobarama, you believed me, right? I am absolutely not lying here. I'm sorry, older brother. You should take your own responsibility. It's not my place to ask forgiveness for you. On the other hand, Tobarama quickly shoot down his brother's cry of help and took a step back to stay out his reach. Don't get me involved, I'm leaving now. Then he gave me a nod. In any case, I will keep our little conversation in mind, and I hope you can do the same. Yeah, I understand. Nodded back, I promised him. Hello? So what did you guys talk about? Hashirama was still determined to figure out why I arranged this meeting, but there's no way I'm telling him, so quietly shook my head. I turned around and left as well. Wait, Madara? Tobarama? Stop ignoring me please? While walking away, I can still hear his voice persistently asking the same question, over and over. However, it doesn't matter anymore. Feeling the mood lighten up, I just can't stop smiling. It seems like I will have to find a new topic on tonight's clan gathering. After hearing all the details from Minato, Tsunade fell silent once again. For a perfect world that was supposed to be a wonderful place to make Naruto eager to stay forever, it seemed to be filled with too many sorrow and sadness. It could be said since it's an experimental world that flaws existed, but the events occurred in that supposedly opposite dimension failed to avoid the tragic fate way too many times. So once again observing the man in front of her, Tsunade starts to believe whatever Madara referred to as the Limited Tsukuyomi might not just be a mere genjutsu, but rather an existing world had branched out in more ways than one. What did people call it again? Parallel universe? After all, nobody had ever heard of a jutsu could pull residents from an illusional world into their reality. The man in front of her, Namikaze Minato, is the second one. And Sakura, the one harbored some twisted memories, was the first. It's the anime canon episodes about Sakura, Limited Tsukuyomi, in canon Konoha. Granny, can we help him? Seeing the woman behind the desk still deep in thoughts, Naruto raised his voice again, leaning on the desk with both of his hands. Please, alright, but this doesn't mean I trust you completely, Minato. Frankly speaking, your entire being is a contradiction to our reality, and there are many questions that need answers. However, the fifth Hokage loosened her stern gaze in response to the pleading look on the blonde teen's face. Naruto believes in you so much that he desperately wanting to help you. At the same time, as the leader of this village, we also can't just sit idly while Madara walking around with half of the Nine Tails chakras stolen from your world. So, how about this? I'll send out an Anbu squad to serve as your subordinates. It's for your safety and ours. I hope you can understand. Her voice trailed off. Also, as long as you're still in my Konoha, we'll treat you like a normal jonin. Is that okay? No problem, Tsunade-sama. To be honest, I've always been a normal jonin in my world. Minato nodded with a faint smile, agreeing without hesitation. And upon hearing their conclusion, Naruto, unable to contain his excitement, turned to the woman behind the desk. Granny, what about me? Can I go with Dad? Please. Hearing the teen's desperate plead, Tsunade had an urge to sign. Just as she was about to speak, someone knocked on the door heavily. Wait until all eyes turned to the exit behind them. That's certain. Someone impatiently burst into the office. I heard someone reanimated Minato-sama. Along with his signature loud voice, a green figure burst the door open and proceeding to slump to the floor. Everyone stared at him, recognizing the man's distinctive tight green suit and bow-cut hairstyle. Behind my guy, instead of his usual lazy expression, stands a very nervous Hitaki Kakashi. What I heard was someone disguised as Minato-sensei infiltrated Hokage's office. Are you okay, Tsunade-sama? Not realizing how ridiculous the rumor became in mere half an hour, the female Hokage felt her head hurts even more. While she's having her headache, the two newcomers stared at the man in the middle of the room, whole body tensed. Outraged by this cunning spy's choice of disguise, Hitaki Kakashi immediately starts to concentrate it on the chakra nature of his teacher's imposter. But the horrifying truth is, the more he looked at it, the more shock he felt. Either the spy in front of him happened to have the exact same chakra nature as Minato-sensei, or he just witnessed a ghost in broad daylight. After all, from his point of view, this man was exactly the same as the mentor he remembered in every aspect. Kakashi, guy, is that you? On the other hand, the faker seemed to be overjoyed by their sudden entrance, and to Kakashi's surprise, he is not worried about them blown his cover. Wait, Kakashi-sensei. Bushy brows sensei. Dad is neither a spy nor a reanimation. You have to believe me. Hearing two Jonin's doubts, Naruto jumped up to defend his father. Well, technically he is not really my dad, but those are just minor problems. Hold up both arms as if protecting his father. Naruto looks extra nervous but refused to back down. As matter of fact, Kakashi was stunned by the boy's reaction, his eyes constantly wandering around this father-son duo, desperate to figure out what happened here. The white-haired Jonin was certain, if he made any moves, the blonde teen would definitely try his best to stop it. Just like how he stopped him Chidori attacked Sasuke last time under the samurai bridge. Kakashi deeply understands Naruto's character. As long as he believes you are somewhat an important figure to him, he will never back down from helping, protecting you. Though Kakashi had no idea how this fake Minato gained that much trust from him within such short time, but if he insists attacking the man, he would only be stopped by that stubborn boy. Thus in the end, Kakashi could do nothing but stand there, his body tensed, his mind on guard. Even the Sharingan usually hide under headband was exposed, carefully observing the Minato-sensei in front of him. At this point, he could only hope reasoning with Naruto would work. Naruto, I know how much you wanted to meet your father. But it's evident that this man isn't Minato-sensei, isn't your father. He must have some ulterior motive for approaching you, to take advantage of you. You have to understand now, don't you? Quote, no, that's not true. Seeing Kakashi-sensei didn't believe him, Naruto got even more anxious. He shook his head frantically, turning to Tsunade for help. Say something please, Granny, Granny? To the surprise of the boy hosting Nine-Tailed Beast, Tsunade, who had just agreed to help his father look for the lost yin half-chakra from a different dimension, seemed lost in thought. She just sat on the sidelines without uttering a word, her eyes focused on watching everything unfold itself, like trying to figure out something. Not knowing what to do, Naruto was about to ask again in a louder voice, but his father gently patted his shoulder and walked out regardless of the teen's objections. Dad, it's okay, let me talk to your Kakashi-sensei. Naruto shuts up immediately, though the face couldn't hide his worry and bewilderment. He was visibly concerned, even starting to think about how to help his father run away if the negotiation ended up badly. Meanwhile, didn't bother by any of this, Minato smiled and relaxed. Except a hint of sadness lingering in that smile and refused to fade away. That Sharingan of yours. It seems like the Obito of this world didn't survive the tragedy either. Heart dropped, Hitaki Kakashi could hear his own breath stopped for a moment. Obito? Who? On the other hand, puzzled by the fact his rival froze upon hearing that name, Guy's head titled. Definitely feel like I've heard that name somewhere before, but where though? Huh, oh. His eyes snapped open, finally remembering. Shaken by the blonde man's words, Kakashi clenched his fists hard, trying his best to dispel all the unnecessary emotions. This is a ploy from the enemy. Don't fall for it. If he's capable of such a perfect transformation jutsu, he must have done some homework on the people around Minato-sensei as well. That's right, you can't fool me. Imposter. But I will admit one thing. He is good, I will give him that. No wonder Naruto trusts him so much. So many hots rush overhead. The infamous copy ninja of Konoha showed an even more unpleasant look. I don't know how you know about Obito, but tricks alone won't deceive me. How could I not know? Bitterness gradually filled the spy's face, especially when he borrowed the appearance of his mentor, the hero of the Hidden Leaf, while looking extremely realistic. It's also outrageously insulting. That same face only can ignite the anger deep inside the Kakashi's heart and nothing more. At least, that should be the only scenario. However, as soon as hearing the words, Minato, blurted out, it felt like a sudden slap in the face, even enough to make Kakashi falter. You, Obito, and Rin are all my most important things, my students. Sorry, I couldn't make it in time back then. What yellow flash of Konoha didn't seem to be much of use at crucial times. Blaming himself, Minato lowered his gaze, silently changed the subject. I don't expect you to trust me immediately, Kakashi. But there's one thing I can promise you. His blue eyes raised, meeting the gaze of the young adult in front of him. I hold no hostility towards this Konoha, Naruto, or any of you. If you still have some doubts, you can try to look through my memories with your Sharingan. Now, can you at least hear my story first? His voice, his attitude, his smile. Everything about this man screams familiarities, gently refreshing, like a breeze of cool air in early spring. Though it was just few simple words, Kakashi still felt that sincerity and calmness in his veins, like reunited with an old friend after so many years. In the end, even that rising rage had been lingering around vanished in an instant, and a sense of serenity came naturally. It made the white-haired man overflowed with emotions, the ones he thought would never experienced anymore. Maybe I should give him a chance. It's not like Tsunade-sama was in any danger right now. Naruto also seemed to be pretty convinced by him, so, maybe. Suddenly, Kakashi was disturbed by the fact that he let his guard down this easily, so fast it's almost unsettling. Still, despite wanting to stood his ground, something compelled him to listen to the man in front of him, something he couldn't comprehend. In the end, Kakashi pulled down the headband, thus proceeds to cover up the Sharingan, showing no intention of attacking anymore. I'm grateful, Kakashi. Understanding this was the chance he asked for, Minato thanked his student's parallel world counterpart with gratitude, until the young man severed their eye contact awkwardly. Seems like you guys finally came to an agreement. Tsunade, satisfied by what she saw up until now, decided to have a word with the two Jonin. You came just in time, Kakashi, Guy. Listen carefully, I'm going to assign you 2 AS rank mission. You will have to ask Minato for further details, but the main order is to help him achieve his goal, as well as watch over him in the process. If you need extra manpower, you can find help in Anbu. Are we clear here? Wait, Granny, what about me? Hearing the female Hokage's final decision, Naruto suddenly remembered his request before the commotion. Can I go with them? I want to help, too. Please. Though I want to say this is beyond your capabilities, you won't just back down easily, am I right? So, instead of you trying to sneak away to follow them, I'd rather have your Kakashi-sensei watch over you as well. Seeing right through the teen's mind, knowing how stubborn this child can be. The fifth Hokage Tsunade just shook her head, as if she had given up trying to persuade the kid. Do whatever you want, Kakashi, I will leave the decision to you. Roger that. Yes. As soon as he got permission, Naruto clenched his fist and cheering in low voice. On the other hand, Kakashi turned his attention to the Namikaze Minato, stands next to the boy again, conflicted and on edge. So, how about you tell us this wish of yours, and exactly who you are? People from the Hidden Stone Village? When I first heard the name, I frowned and looked at Hashirama's direction, who was still pretending to be in deep thoughts. Without trying to hide the disdain in my voice, I asked. You want me to go meet them? Why? Quote, according to Tobirama, they want to establish a diplomatic relation with our village. But I just can't spare the time for now, so can you go instead? You know, like a representative of Konoha and me. Hashirama's gaze are flying all over the room, never once tried to land on me. Since the Hokage building won't be finished for the time being, they simply have to set up the office in Hashirama and Tobirama's house temporarily. So in that case, if there is something urgent, even I have to go in person. And today seems to be that day. Why need me? Where's Tobirama? And if you have other things to attend to, you should just tell them to visit another day. Since they took the initiative to act, they should show some sincerity to us. Why should we cooperate with them? It's already their lucky day that we haven't gotten a chance to tell this so-called Hidden Stone Village surrender to Konoha. So stop acting so timid when you are the one in power. After all, half-baked alliances were never my interest from the start. As the strongest village in this wild shinobi world, it's important to show everyone that's not your own who's the boss around here. I know it's weird for me to complain, but Hashirama is still too kind and naive. Madara, I see your attitude still arrogant like always, something like this happened. Under my cold gaze, Hashirama finally confessed. The person who came this time is Tsuchikage's second-in-command of the recently established Iwagakure. Tobirama said that it would be too cheap for a Hokage to go in person. So we needed to send someone equal in status from the village, like my right-hand man. This is when I thought of you. I was stunned for a good moment by this sudden statement. It almost took a while for me to realize what Hashirama just said. You mean I am the second in command of Konoha? When did that happen? Why don't I remember any of this? You have always been my most precious friend and rival. Who else can be my second in command other than you? Regarding to my untimely question, Hashirama looked at me confused and hurt? As if I had said something particularly strange. You are also one of the major driving force of Konoha's establishment. It's a bit hurtful to ask this kind of question now, isn't it? I always thought your right-hand man is Tobirama. Hearing the response from Hashirama, I couldn't help to ask. After all, I don't seem to have any saying about the village's development so far, but now Hashirama suddenly claims I was his right-hand man. How should I react to this revelation? Hey, don't get me wrong. Tobirama is my brother in blood. You are my one and only friend who shares the same dream and ideal with me, my brother not tied by blood. But that doesn't make you any lesser. On the contrary, I can't think of anybody besides you as my right-hand man. You have to trust me. I won't disappoint you this time, not anymore. He was quiet for a moment, then raised his eyes glancing at my direction. There was an inexplicable worry in his tone, as if feared for something. Tobirama's also okay about this. In fact, he was the one suggests me to entrust the matter to you. So, can you do it for me? My brother. Staring into his very nervous eyes, I fell into another silence, then sighed. Fine, I get it now. Since you showed me your attitude, I'd better respond in kind. But is it really okay? Leaving all the explanation to me? What will you do if I refuse their request? I will leave the decision to your own judgment. But if possible, can you be a little more reserved? And maybe not saying whatever you want to Tsuchikage's messengers, especially the part you told me just now. Just now? The surrender to Konoha part. Remember the hidden stones here to be an ally and possible collaborator to us. The so-called cooperation is merely a quieter form of conflict. You are saying that again. Madara, I'm serious. I shook my head, but decided to not keep this conversation going on any longer. I'm serious too, okay? Anyway, since it's a direct order from our first Hokage, what else you want me to do other than oblige? So, when will they arrive? Well, you do know I'm not trying to pressure you, right? Madara, sensing that sarcastic tone from my voice, Hashirama depressed again. I swear I could see a dark cloud forming over his head from my angle. This is my earnest request. If you really don't want to go, I'll ask Tobarama later. But I do think it's a good opportunity. I want people from other villages understands how important you are to Konoha, as well as to me. He peeked at me again, with a very annoying, what a waste, expression escaping that very punchable face. Of course I will go. Is that what you want to hear? This guy knew I wouldn't refuse such a request, but he still pretended to be otherwise just to see my reaction. It's been the same old trick for so many years, how could I not catch his drift by now? So to satisfy him I slammed the desk and agreed with a stern face. Seriously, that's great, then I will leave everything to you. The messengers from Hidden Stone Village are scheduled to arrive at the temporary embassy in half an hour. As soon as I gave him my words, Hashirama's expression immediately switched to a bright smile, but what he said almost made me question my decision just now. Half an hour later? Do I even have the time to prepare? This isn't like on the battlefield. I can't just go for it without a second thoughts. Besides, has he ever considered about what he would do if I really refused? No time to lose now Madara, see ya. While I'm shooting my deadliest glare towards him, Hashirama never seemed fazed. Nothing peculiar, since he should be already used to this by now. On the other hand, though I had a lot of complaints to dump on this guy, I can tell I really have no time to waste. So all I can do is to get up and leave the temporary Hokage office immediately. But before I take my departure, I didn't forget to send another glare at Hashirama, plus made up my mind to come back and settle this issue with him later. Madara, remember to show minimum respect to our precious guests. Even after I slammed the door shut, I could still hear his obnoxious voice. Hidden Stone Village, huh? It seems like the naming originality is not the only thing they lacked. Under the dim light, I looked down at the two so-called messengers from Land of Earth. It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Not so long ago, I rushed to the temporary embassy, but the people at front told me they hadn't arrived yet. Where are their manners? I thought it was basic courtesy for whoever proposed the alliance to show their sincerity by arrived early and waited for us. Tobarama was right. If they can't take this seriously, then what's the point of negotiating? So, because our guests decided to act like this, then I must respond in kind as well. That's why I rejected the idea of wait in the meeting room, and rushed to the underground tunnel to intercept them. After all, there is only one way to enter the village, which requires outsiders to pass through the underground tunnel, reach the woods outside Konoha before walking towards the front door. I simply went to the exit of that passage and successfully blocked their way. Hashirama said there were two people coming, so I studied their faces and sneered in my mind. One tall and one short. The tall one is also the older one that wrapped in bandages. As for the short one, he's merely a kid, nothing special. However, I never expect the right-hand man of the first Tsuchikage would actually brought a kid to attend foreign affairs. How much did they treat this issue like a joke? The answer it's rather obvious by now. To be honest, as someone who's never a fan of this, diplomatic relations, they haven't tried their best efforts to change my opinion. As silence filled up the entire tunnel, it was the kid who decided to speak up. You are the shinobi from Konoha. What are you doing here? Are you the one Hokage-sama sent to greet us? Compared to him, the Tsuchikage's second-in-command clearly was the knowledgeable one. His hand reached out to stop the brat from asking more questions and spoke to me in a humble voice. You must be Uchiha Madara-sama, am I right? Sorry for my apprentice's rudeness. I'm here under the order of our Tsuchikage. My name is Mew. May I ask the reason you came this long way down here? Hearing my name, the kid turned towards me. His expression full of shock and disbelief, then he opened his mouth to try to say something again. However, before that happens, the older man scolded him. Onoki. What am I doing here? You are the one suggest to establish diplomatic relations with us, correct? So is there any other reason me being here? I answered like a matter of fact. By hearing my response, the kid's eyes widened. Then he barked at my direction, this time not even his superior being able to stop him. But the one we requested to meet was Lord Hashirama. Not you, Madara-sama. Narrowed my eyes, I instantly activated my Sharingan to give this snotty-nosed brat a stare down he will never forget. With an attitude like that, there's no alliance now. Since you hidden stone shinobi can't show the bare minimum respect to us, maybe it's better for you go back to your village today. After coldly dismissed the two, I turned to leave. But the kid was also pretty persistent. Wait a second. Madara-sama, that wasn't the agreement. Onoki, shut up. The other man seemed to have finally decided to jump in. The problem is, from my perspective, as someone choose to stand around just watching everything unfold itself, he was no better than his impetuous student. As expected, I was correct. The Hidden Stone Village itself didn't treat the alliance serious enough. In that case, I must give them a warning. I need to show them no one can mess with Konoha. That's right. This is the path I choose to walk now, so I will do everything to protect Hidden Leaf's supremacy in this shinobi world. I won't allow anyone or anything stand in my way, not even my own dream. As resolve slowly forming in my chest, I quietly changed my Sharingan into an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and then activated Susanoo. The fierce wind generated in an instant blew the two downstairs several meters away. I watched them get up from the ground with dirt and dust all over their bodies. I saw their expressions were full of hesitation and fear. While continued to gaze over them coldly, at long last, I decided to give them my minimum respect Hashirama nagged me about. Come back and do it again, but this time with your utmost sincerity. Or just bow down to the might of Hidden Leaves, one of the two. You should consider my suggestion carefully. After that, I turned around and left. This time, no one dared to stop me. Maybe it's time to make preparation on my end now. I will find a way watch over Konoha even after this generation's demise. According to that tablet, I require Hashirama's assistance to achieve the power sage of 6 paths possessed, the Rinnegan. So, what do you think? Do you still find it hard to believe? After hearing all the explanations from Minato, the silver-haired man looked dumbfounded at best. Finally, when consciousness slowly crawled back to his mind, Kakashi glanced at his teacher from another dimension, probably, then decided to comment on whatever nonsense he just received now. It's absolutely absurd but oddly convincing coming from you. Hitaki Kakashi uttered his true feelings slowly but surely, eyes not leaving the blonde man's face. Then he frowned slightly, however, that demeanor of his was much more relaxed compared to minutes ago. It seemed that, whether believed it or not, Kakashi no longer harbored that strong hostility towards Minato anymore. Exactly what I tried to tell you guys. After all, if Dad really were a spy, wouldn't he come up with a more convincing story? What he told us was totally surreal, no one would believe it. Except for me probably. Noticing his sensei's expression finally softened, Naruto quickly seized the opportunity to add more excuses to Minato's favor. Besides, if everything was just a lie, then yesterday he should had plenty of time to turn against me. Yet Dad didn't do anything at all, he even cooked for me while telling me stories. There's no way he is a spy. You have to trust us. Listening to Naruto's endless plead, Kakashi studied his student's desperate expression, at long last finally stopped questioning and sighed. I see. For now, I'll take your word for it. Kakashi answered, as the young Jonin lifted his sight again. The first thing he saw is Minato-sensei's right palm. For better or for worse, his body stiffed again, not sure how to react. Thank you, Kakashi. I understand how ridiculous my story sounds, trust me I really do. So I truly appreciate you all willing to give me a chance. The blonde man flashed that signature warm smile once again, combined with his gentle ambience, it slowly stirred memories hidden deep inside Kakashi's mind. Though brain was screaming at him to think rationally, the emotional side of Kakashi persistently wore away that already dwindling resolve. If this is an act from enemy, then there might not be too many people in this world could see through his disguise. Now I can understand why Naruto trusts him so much. But if what he's saying is true. Unclenching his fist, Kakashi patiently extended his arm and shook Minato's hand. Deep inside, certain unfamiliar emotion rose up as he felt that silver of hope slowly but surely resurfaced. That emotion was called relief. Maybe he is telling the truth. This really is Minato-sensei, transpassing another dimension to seek our help. Even if he's not exactly the sensei I know, what difference does it make? Just having the chance to see my teacher again, to go on missions together once more, isn't that good enough? With that thought in mind, Kakashi shifted his gaze and bowed to Tsunade, who had been quietly observing on the sideline. I accept this mission, Tsunade-sama. You don't mind, right? Guy? Yes, of course. Lord Fort, Sama, I mean Minato-san. Leave everything to us. On the contrary, Guy just thrilled to be part of this unbelievable mission while completely forgetting about the keep an eye on him part. This is the youth. This is a miracle. Oh. Minato observed the two in front of him back and forth, then he broke into a hearty smile. The personalities of Kakashi and Guy have completely swapped in this world. How interesting. What do you mean? His comment immediately caught the attention of two Jonins. This is when Naruto suddenly had a realization, slapping his forehead as he turned to the two, only merely holding back his laughter. Then he explained, right. I forgot to tell you, Kakashi-sensei and Guy-sensei. In the world of Limited Tsukuyomi, your personalities are completely reversed. Kakashi-sensei is energetic all the time, while Guy-sensei's catchphrase has become something like, youth has faded. So negative, it's almost funny. Me? Energetic? Are you serious? Taken back by Naruto's words, Kakashi instinctively seeking confirmation from Minato by turning towards his direction. What? How could I from that world saying such thing? Where is he? I need to head there right now and teach him a lesson what youth truly means. Guy, on the other hand, was in absolute shock. By raising his voice, he is ready to break through the barrier of multiverse to confront his other self. Well, to be honest, the Kakashi over there wasn't always like that. Minato said with a touch of bitterness in that bright smile, lowering his voice. His significant change was related to Obito's death, and my own incompetence. Naruto, who had no background knowledge, was frozen solid. Holding his breath, the teen's eyes darted between the adults. Hold on a second, what does that mean? Despite it being the story about a different version of himself, Kakashi's still very intrigued. However, that sorrow and anger he felt for his comrade and friend lingered around, refused to fade away. It seems like even in another dimension, fate abandoned Obito once more. Looking around, Minato pondered for a moment before yielding to their, mainly Kakashi's, probing stares and continued to answer. In fact, when Team Minato was first formed, Obito and Kakashi didn't get along very well. Obito was constantly competing with Kakashi because of Arin. Although he never won once, he also never gave up. Minato sighed nostalgically, while that sadness kept lingering, a gentle smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. But since they are all very good kids, even without me getting involved, they still gradually improved as a team. He shifted his glance to the student from another world, then the incident happened. During the Third Ninja War, Obito died in the battle at the Kanobi Bridge. Before his death, he also gave one of his Sharingan to the Kakashi from my world. Later that day, I retrieved his body under the rubble and brought him back to Konoha for a proper burial. I've heard about Uchiha Obito as well, but wasn't he supposed to be classified as Mia? Tsunade, who had remained silent behind the desk, finally spoke up. Her gaze resting on Kakashi, who had widened his eyes in response to Minato's words, visibly shocked by this sudden revelation. Hold on, sensei. Unconsciously switched back to old habit when addressing the man as a development of trust, Kakashi interrupted Minato. You found Obito's body, and brought him back to Konoha. Yes, of course. Is it different here? Minato looked puzzled, and his expression turned noticeably depressed when he saw the serious shake of Kakashi's head. I see. Looks like I failed to help that child in this world as well. The entire room fell into silence again. Couldn't shake that uneasy feeling away. Naruto glanced back and forth between his father and teacher, ultimately decided to not step into their conversations out of respect. No, this was not your fault, sensei. Kakashi opened mouth, voice low, and keep avoiding Minato's eyes. Even in a situation like this, he still tried to offer some reassurance. The timing really was not the best and you didn't have any opportunity to retrieve Obito's body, so I don't think you need to feel sorry about the incident. The one truly at fault is, he slowly shook his head, refrained talking more. From what you just told us, looks like my counterpart's life experience are almost identical to mine. What happened later to make such difference? Minato nodded and continued, not long after Obito's death, Kakashi from my world suddenly changed drastically. The change was so absurd it caused concern from everyone. Though no matter how much we pressed him, our Kakashi stubbornly refused to acknowledge any issues with his behavior. So, Minato's eyes seemed to drift beyond the walls, extending into the distance void, as if he was once again lost in memories. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.